Hey everybody, and welcome to the first of this month's draft days. I've always been hyping up 2 draft days because we're back a month, and now we're finally going to get 2 this month. We're doing one early in the month, and then we'll do a more horror-related one later. But this has been one that's been brewing for a little bit of time. I'm just going to bring on the panel right away, so we can have one of our panelists explain this draft since it was his idea. But I'm going to bring on just all in tandem, and then I'll ask how everyone's doing. Hosts of the channel, Chadwick Webb, Matt Chapmond, and guests JD and Commentating Nerd. Hey guys, Andrew, how's it going? Welcome back. JD and Andrew have been on drafts before. Matt and Chad, obviously mainstays on the channel. Matt, I want to throw it over to you first because this was your idea, this director roulette, and a lot of people watching are probably like, "What is director roulette?" How are you doing? And are you excited for this? And what is this? I should ask.
I'm very excited. I'm doing fine. I've been looking forward to this all day. So I don't remember exactly what caused me to think of this, but I had a just a brilliant idea. I say brilliant. I had an idea while I was driving, and I had to record a voice note and send it to Dyl because I couldn't type it. I recorded a voice note to send to him to be like, "This is what it is," and we can talk about it later. But if I don't tell you now, I will forget. But so basically, what it is, and we've kind of refined it since I first conceived of it. But the final form, what we're going to be doing today, is everybody is going to pick a director, and their first pick of the draft will be the movie they're picking for that director. So the first pick of the draft is both the director that you're picking and the movie that by them that you are going to be drafting. Then after the first round, we get into the draft proper. We get into the regular everything as normal draft, which is that we start to each of us draft one film from each of the directors that have been put forward. So this is one that we couldn't do any prep, well, except for Dylan, who looked at every director of all time to prep. So there was no prep time. It's basically, we're going to find out, we're going to start scrambling, and it's going to be about, we just got to hope we've seen the movies that are left from that director. Because we didn't get to prep any. So
it's just a director draft day. It's just we hadn't been given the 5 categories ahead of time. We're making them up as we go, which is fun, because if we were to just pick 5 directors ahead of time, it would be pretty straightforward. But this adds an extra fun element.
It also gives the voting like an extra little layer because you're not just voting the movies that we're drafting, but you can also vote the director that we drafted for it. So like it gives that little element for the voting as well. So I'm excited to get into it.
Cool. So now that we've explained what it is, Chad, welcome. Are you excited for this? What's your thought process going in?
This one is actually a little bit of frustrating because there's so many directors, and I'm just like, I could go any different way with the strategy, and I'm like, it's just so overwhelming. So I don't know. We'll see if, maybe I'll get like a little bit of a later pick so I can think more, but if not, then, I have a couple maybe up my sleeve. But I'm ultimately excited because I do think it is a great idea. And I think it's just really fun because we're all going to be scrambling. So it's more of a game than it normally is, which I think is really cool. Good job, Matt. This is a good idea.
Andrew, it's funny because Matt and I both, like, just privately were thinking like who could be guests for this panel. And he said your name as I was thinking your name, and because you do your elaborate lists and going through Letterboxd and like kind of completing a lot of like filmographies is like your thing. So we're very happy to have you. How are you approaching this draft day? Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I've over the years I've been very director driven when it comes to what movies I watch and trying to fill in filmographies and get as many from like the big name guys. But like that's just kind of how I process and think about movies, is who's directing it and how their directing style is. It's not how I used to watch movies, but it definitely is how I watch them now and categorize them. So it's exciting to do it that way. But also now I'm stuck with like, am I going to be more strategic with this draft and like pick like a director where I think I can like figure out an advantage of like my first pick could be a could be like this, I don't know, perfect pick, and then everybody else is set up to kind of scramble for what it is? Or Or do I go with a passion pick and just be like, this is my favorite director, this is my favorite movie for my favorite director, and that could be fun too. But yeah, it'll be interesting. That's
Yeah. Yeah, and then we have JD, who again, like when you're thinking of assembling a panel, because you also want to have panelists who are like well versed enough to where if you name a director, they've likely seen at least a few films from that director, or at least have enough knowledge of cinema to like be able to pull. Okay, well, if I don't know all their films, what is the next most popular one? And JD has been no stranger to the most obscure picks on these drafts, especially the A through Z draft. That's kind of what inspired me to ask you for this one, because it's like you were picking Baby's Day Out on the second pick, you know. So, and sorry if that tipped your pick today. But JD, how are you feeling going into this one?
It's interesting. I'm really excited about the concept. When you said like you want me to be a part of this director's roulette concept, I'm like, oh, this will be a lot of fun. But also, there's really like no real way to prep about this. The only thing I've really done is I've kind of narrowed it down to 2 directors, depending on which strategy of what I want to go. Is there just something like a topic I really want to talk about and really want to spotlight, or do I want to talk about a comedy I really like, but then a lot of people are just going to be, left in the dust? I really,
Oh, no.
it's like, you have to. It's really, I'm really excited about what's going to happen here.
Cool. Well, let's get right into it. Matt explained the rules very beautifully, as he always does. So I'll just very briefly recap on how draft day itself works for anyone who's tuning in maybe for the first time and was intrigued by this premise. Thank you for joining us. There will be 5 rounds total. As Matt said, the draft is snakes, so it will play out as a normal draft after the first round. The 5 categories will be set, and then you just have to pick a film from each director. It will be a random draft order, which you'll select by a wheel in just a sec. After I've already said that, each director chosen, this is important, should have 5 feature-length films. So if they've done like 3 films and a bunch of shorts, Ari Aster, you can't pick him. If they've done only a 4 or 2 or 1 feature, that doesn't count. We need them to have 5 features, and let's at least try to make it relatively known features, 5 relatively known features, and then after that it can get as obscure as it gets, to where at least everyone has a chance to draft something they at least know, maybe not that they've seen, and that's going to be the fun part too, is like maybe there's a director that some of us have seen only 4 or 3 of their films, and that's where the strategy comes in. If anyone disagrees though with the eligibility of a pick, they can veto the pick, especially when we get into like conversations about like duos. Like if you pick a directing duo, and then you want to draft a film that was only directed by one of that duo, for example, we may talk about that as like a veto later on. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't see a lot of vetoes happening for this one, except for the first round itself, if we feel like that is not an eligible director to be picked by any reason. And please do not mention or tip picks until they are drafted. So that includes in those first 5 picks, don't tip other directors. And then after the directors are picked, don't talk about their whole filmographies. You can talk about their filmographies in a broad sense, but don't name specific titles except for the film you're picking. And then after the 5th pick, we can briefly, if we want, just bring up some other directors we thought about. But let's keep it at that. So I got the wheel here. It's stuck on the arm of my chair because it's plugged into a charger. There we go. Our 5 names are right here, and this will decide the order. And this will be whoever it lands on will pick their spot.
Let's see if it's rigged today.
And
Yep.
I'm not trying to rig it. Oh, this is live time. I promise. I'm gonna remove it here so you can see it's not a video. I'm gonna go 5th because I want to see how it plays out. I want to see. This isn't like strategic. I usually go 5th, but like this is strictly because I don't necessarily know who I want to pick. So I'm going to hope maybe one of y'all picks another one I was thinking of, and it gives me time to kind of process and to get some variety. Like if y'all pick maybe a certain vein or genre, maybe I could pick someone who's a little different. So I just want to like see the field before I jump in.
I was going to pick 5th as well because you get your first shot at the field after it's.
Yep.
Well, right. Matt, you're gonna get to pick either 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. What would you like?
I'm gonna go 4th, just because I want the earliest shot at the field.
Right. Well, keep in mind though, that also means I'm gonna be left with the last one for the last director, so that could also be a bad thing. Chad, you're next. Would you like to go 1st, 2nd, or 3rd?
I'll go right in the middle. I'll go 3rd.
All right. So JD and Nerd are gonna be battling it out. for that first spot, which is interesting. 'cause
Nobody wants the
normally
first
no.
spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nerd, would you like the first or second?
I'm doing this number 2 pick.
Okay, so JD, I know you were toying between two directors, so you're gonna have to reveal to us right now who that director is that you're gonna settle on, and what that film is from that director. JD, the draft order set. JD, Andrew, Chad, Matt, and Dylan. The draft is commencing now. Round one, pick one. JD, you're on the clock.
So, for this director pick, I've decided to spotlight a medium that I believe has been overlooked in, at least in America until recently, animation. In particular, there were a pair of animators who were randomly paired together in the late 80s who then teamed up on a permanent basis and were among the first to push the medium in America. They defined what the quote unquote Disney formula was and did it better than most other animators who tried to replicate it. I'm, of course, talking about John Musker and Ron Clements, aka Musker and Clements. Now, as for the movie I'm going to talk about today, it's a film near and dear to my heart. It is 1997's Hercules.
Nice.
Now, in 1997 is a very formative year for me. It was a year that I branched out into more genres besides kids films and rom-coms. And I remember, Disney used to, on their VHSs, they used to like preview what the next big animated feature was going to be the following year. And I remember being striked by, they had Charleston Heston's opening narration, which leads to the hard strike to the muses. And then it leads to a montage of behind the scenes stuff to Gospel Truth and Zero to Hero. It struck a chord. I remember being very hyped, to go in 1997. And I actually saw this as like what Disney used to do, like sneak previews that you could buy at the Disney store to do. And I remember being struck by the visual colors and its otherworldliness, not to mention its killer soundtrack. It left a profound impact on me. I've also always had a fondness for outcasts, not like chosen one outcasts, but like a group of outcasts who have a clear set of deficiencies, but they overcome it together. Like Hercules has a heart of gold, and he has clear strength, but he's a klutz and a bit of a thick head. It's like Clark Kent if he was pretending, but if he's not actually pretending to be clueless or klutzy. Like that's actually him. Like that's his personality. Pegasus is as loyal as it comes, but he's easily distracted and he gets sidetracked very easily. Phil seems like a curmudgeon, but he's actually just somebody who's bitter with grief because he's got to watch all his mentees die. I remember I watched this a couple days ago when I was leaning towards this direction, and I just remember being struck on how clear of an arc Phil has throughout this whole thing. And then Meg, played by the great Susan Egan, who played Belle and was nearly rejected for the role because they didn't want to give it to her, which Disney still does to this day. They refuse, if they've been cast and known as something else, they refuse to cast them in anything else. She wants to do the right thing, but she has notorious bad luck with character judgment. Separately, they would never have succeeded, but together they go to distance. It's a sentiment to me that always rings true. So much so that every time, without fail, when A Star Is Born starts playing, Mount JD Balling of Emotions erupts. It is by far my favorite Disney Renaissance movie. By far.
There you go. So John Musker and Ron Clements. I always flip the first names by accident. Sometimes I'll say Ron Musker and John Clements. Yeah, the first duo off the board. And remember, going forward, we have to pick films directed by that duo, even though I don't think they did a lot of solo work. But it's going to be really interesting. I mean, getting some Disney animation on the board for sure. I mean, they single-handedly kind of revived the company, which is big. Not just great directors, but great for what the business is or was. And which I guess they're still leading into, the classic, fairy tale musicals, kind of essentially bringing Broadway musicals and animated films together to create like this new type of medium, as you said. Hercules, not my favorite of theirs, so I'm glad mine is still out there. But I still love the film. I think it's a great pick, and I agree. The music especially is just such a banger, banger soundtrack. Wow. For Hercules, first off the board, anyone have thoughts on Hercules or this director duo without spoiling other films of theirs?
I was very worried that JD going first or going at all would be mind-boggling. However, I kind of love that we're going to be able to talk about animation directors and particularly this duo, because they definitely have put together some really amazing movies. And honestly, I don't think anybody really knows their names unless they've really like dove into Disney animators, and like that sort of thing. If you're interested, though, like Blank Check Podcast also did a mini series on them. I think that around this time last year. So that's potentially something people listening should go check out that podcast to go through the different movies that they have, because they're all really good.
And on that note, the Hercules podcast in particular is so good. I forget his name, the actor from Strange Loop. I forget his name, but he's on the podcast and he like sings a lot on the podcast, which is a lot of fun. So that's a very fun episode. Chad, any thoughts on this director duo, Musker Clements?
Just remind me never to debate JD if he's ever got Hercules in his pocket, because that dude knows a lot about Hercules apparently. It's a great pick. A lot of those early animated movies for like duos. I mean, even like Spider-Verse movies and stuff. Have a lot of different directors tied to them and things like that. So it's really cool that he's spotlighting some names that, like, unless you're like a real big Disney fan, you probably don't know. And Hercules is probably one of the more underrated ones, I'd say. So the music's great. I really love that one. So great pick.
Cool. Matt, any thoughts on this?
I like Andrew there. I was also nervous about JD going at all. I was worried he was going to pick someone like really obscure, and to my surprise, he did. But also like a great pick, like a great. Musker and Clements, like that's the. I'm very impressed with this choice. The movie, I talk about this all the time. It came out in between the time when I stopped caring about animated movies and when I started caring about animated movies again. I saw it back then, and I was really into Greek mythology, so the Disneyfication of it really bugged me. So I've never really liked this movie. I did give it a shot again a couple years ago, and I do think it's better than I used to give it credit for. I still don't think it's still not a movie I really like very much. However, Go the Distance is one of the greatest I Want songs in all of Disney. Regardless of how I feel about that movie, Go the Distance is one of the best I Want songs ever. I don't have a lot to say about it. I know that a lot of people love that movie. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this also because you bring up the fact that like it might be an obscure name, both of them, to just the regular passerby. But I think when you look at the films, it's like everyone knows them. Like I'm not gonna say them, but like you look at them, it's the very few of their films are obscure. They're all well known.
Right, the names are obscure, but they are iconic. Like I knew the names when he said them, but like I was like, oh gosh, they're not conversation names. Like we don't talk about them all the time.
And prior to them, it was a lot of like the studio is running these films, and these are the people we're gonna put in the director chairs. But it was more of a collaborative effort. Whereas I think when Musker and Clements came into the picture, it was much more we're gonna literally hand the reins over to you and see what you do creatively, and like keep bringing them on as a team to where they got their own, blank check, which we'll hopefully talk about later, of what they got to produce as their passion project because of it.
Yes.
Which you rarely see in a big studio like that.
System. And that was the other one that I nearly went with.
Well, it might come up.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, but I will say, like, I feel like they're the first one. Like, I don't think you get you don't get into the Spider-Verse. You don't get like a lot of these like real authorship if they don't do some of the movies that they do.
Yeah. There you go. All right, Andrew. You get the second pick,
Oh, yeah.
and you get to choose the second director who will be represented in our director roulette. What are you going to go with?
Okay. This is definitely going to be a divisive pick, or it's a divisive director, so I think it'll be fun to talk about. It's not going to be one that's like a pain for us to talk about, if that makes sense. I think everybody can come up with a pick, but there might be a lot of debate about what the fourth and fifth best options are, sort of thing, which I think will make this interesting. So, but I'm going to go with my personal favorite, which might not be the one that'll get me the most votes, but it's one of my favorite movies, and I'm going to go with Edward Scissorhands from Tim Burton.
Nice.
So like this is my number one favorite Tim Burton movie. It's my number one favorite Danny Elfman score. The music dancing through this movie is like better than almost any other movie score, period, let alone Elfman's. The scene with like this ice sculpture and the snow falling and Winona Ryder like dancing in the flakes and the music playing over it, that's like one of my favorite scenes. And the whole thing, I love the juxtaposition of this like gothic horror castle on the hill, and then Edward Scissorhands kind of coming down from it to be part of this like bright, colorful suburban, like everything's cookie cutter and uniform and stuff, like and how he kind of merges into that world, and it's just this a wonderful like dark fairy tale, because there is a tragic note to it, which tragedy is a bummer, but it can also be beautiful, and I think it is in this movie. So Edward Scissorhands is one of my favorites, and it's my pick for the first round.
Nice. I mean, that is my favorite from him as well, so it's going to be fun. I've got to find what else I would like to represent, because that is my favorite as well of Tim Burton's. A very divisive filmmaker, as you've said, but I feel like even like if we were to each pick like a top 5, they're probably all films we like. It's not until you look at the entire filmography where there's some that aren't as good, but I think it's very top-heavy filmography where at least some of the top few films he's directed are like all-timers. So I think it's a great pick, and it's going to lead to some fun conversation because he also spans a bunch of different genres. So I like the pick. Anyone else? Tim Burton?
Tim Burton is I've loved Tim Burton. Growing up, I was a huge Tim Burton fan. He has a lot of movies that I really love. He has my love of his movies has faded with the years, but there's a lot of his movies that I absolutely love. Edward Scissorhands, I'm pretty sure that was the first one of his I ever saw. This is probably the first one a lot of us saw. And I remember just being in awe of it. Like it's one of those things that I've talked about this before, that like you think back to certain movies that have always been with you, and you kind of consider how at some point this was a new idea and that the world had to get on board with it. Edward Scissorhands is a similar thing to that, where it's like, imagine having never heard of Edward Scissorhands and then suddenly there's Edward Scissorhands. Like how, like that's kind of weird. But I love that movie. Vincent Price as the whatever. What's his? I don't know what his character is. That's Vincent Price, right? Yeah, Vincent Price is the creator. It's really tragic movie, and I love the that it's kind of also like, while it is a dark gothic movie, it's also like a satire of commercialism in the 1980s, which I really love. So yeah,
awesome.
It's a great pick.
Chad, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Tim Burton is one of those where I feel like he had a lot of really great stuff like earlier in his career, and then he kind of tapered off a little bit. So I'm hoping, maybe he can make a return one day with something like really, really cool. But there's still a lot of really great stuff like early on that I feel like we can all have a plethora of things to choose. I was just looking through and trying to figure out which one to choose. So there's a good amount. But yeah, I just love his style. I think this is a really good director to pick because, there is a good amount, but, also I feel like some of his movies are favorite movies for some people, for sure. And, definitely makes a lot of interesting stuff. You just can't pick Nightmare Before Christmas because he didn't direct it.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
Sorry if somebody picks that director.
JD, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, unfortunately, unfortunately, we can't choose Nightmare Before Christmas because that was the first one that I saw. But that being said, I do really like him as a director. It's very hit or miss, and there are some things that are misses that I actually really like, which we may get to later. But yeah, he has a clear aesthetic, and to a lot of people my age, he's the first one that you're like, what's a Tim Burton movie? How do you describe that? He's like the first one, oh, I can describe to you what a Tim Burton movie is. And that's really to a lot of us, that was our first kind of definition of what authorship was him. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, he's got that signature style, which is so key for a draft like this, especially where we're singling out directors. All right, Chad, I know you've agonized over this, but what is going to be your pick? It's very hard. You have literally every director except for 3 to choose from. So, and one's a duo, or 2 is a duo. So
I know. Yeah, I think. Well, I'm definitely going to go with a horror director because I'm wearing my Fangoria shirt. I know that it's not like a horror draft, but I'm like, it's October. I've been just watching mostly horror. So I'm like, which one to choose though? And I feel like, I got to go with someone who I think is just super excellent in their craft, but also has like a plethora. So, I'm not really screwing people over here or anything like that.
Say it. I think
I also just want to highlight this director because, and I'll say he is coming out with the show soon. That I'm very.
I knew it. I knew it.
I'm gonna pick Mike Flanagan.
And I knew you were gonna go. I knew you were gonna go Flanagan or Carpenter. One of those two.
Yeah, I wrote a J for John Carpenter that I had to write out M for Matt Flanagan.
I was thinking about those two. Wow, JD has my number. And I'm gonna go with Dr. Sleep, because I think that's his best film. He's been jumping into a lot of TV work recently, which I think is really great. And I can say those things because this is a movie draft. But yeah, Midnight Mass is I think one of the best things that's ever been made in the past few years, and everyone should watch that. And he's doing the Fall of the House of Usher now, so and I'm very excited for that to come out tomorrow. To watch that. But yeah, he does have a lot of really great movies, and I feel like a lot of people just don't really bring his name up as much in the big conversation of elite horror directors. And honestly, I think he's right there. I think he is, and because he does a lot of Stephen King adaptations, I think he is kind of the next Stephen King kind of deal. Just the way he creates some of these grand concepts and stuff. He's also kind of the king of the adaptation because he does that a lot. He likes to adapt stuff. And I think, with Dr. Sleep, what he did is he really crafted something that, not only honored the movie, The Shining, from back in the day, but it also honored the book, The Shining. It honored the book, Dr. Sleep. And it kind of just created this blend, this if you watch the director's cut, this 3-hour blend of just perfection. Great acting all around. Scary as hell. Rebecca Ferguson is just a menacing villain. Ewan McGregor's great. Kylie Curran is great. She's going to be in the Fall of the House of Usher. Yeah, it's just a really cool, kind of like a vampire movie, to be honest. So And then when it really goes into the back to the Overlook, it's just a really incredible sequence. And I love how he is able to just visualize a lot of these things that you don't think would ever be able to be visualized from a Stephen King story. So, yeah, I had a lot I was debating over, but I was like, you know what? Flanagan should get more discussion. So, yeah.
Matt?
If you go look at Dylan's TikTok of his Shining review, yeah, he did a Shining review, and I did a comment 3 deep, so I want to talk about this because here's the thing. I've recently read a bunch, like in the last year, I've read a bunch of Stephen King. Like I'm doing every book connected to the Dark Towers series and the Dark Tower series. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So I read The Shining for the second time recently, and then I read Doctor Sleep for the first time, and I'd already seen the movie. And this is kind of what I was commenting on this thing, is that like there's a lot to be like the Shining is a bad adaptation but a great movie. Like and as he said in his review, like Jack Nicholson was, a lot of criticism was about Jack Nicholson's casting as that character because it is a wrong choice for that character. It's a right choice for the movie that director, I don't want to say his name in case, was making.
Yeah.
He was the right choice for the movie that director was making, but he was the wrong choice for that character. And because when it comes down to it, the book The Shining is not really a horror movie. It's a movie about addiction and a loving father who just wants to protect his son from his inner demons, like the dad's inner demons. Like that's what the book is. The movie is not necessarily that. The Doctor Sleep, now I'm getting to the thing you actually talked to. Doctor Sleep was almost a perfect adaptation. Like it was such a good adaptation of that book while also bringing in, like, almost bridging a gap between the book The Shining and the movie The Shining to make it kind of make sense as a sequel to both, which I really love. Ewan McGregor, unlike Jack Nicholson, is a perfect choice for the young Danny Torrance. Like he's incredible. If The Shining is about addiction and a loving father, Doctor Sleep is about recovery and a man who never who did not get to grow up with his loving father. Like that's kind of the balance, is that like The Shining is about how addiction can take you over and become this monster to you. Doctor Sleep is about recovering from that and moving on with your life, it's brilliantly done. Mike Flanagan is incredible. It does an incredible work with that movie. I think it's an incredible choice.
Yeah. This is actually, I was expecting like JD to do this to me, but like this is the one pick where like I love Mike Flanagan from what I've seen, but what I've seen is probably very little compared to Chad, because I'm assuming we're not counting the miniseries as films, right? So we're only looking at as movies, and that I think makes it difficult because like I'm looking at his Letterboxd and there's only 3 movies I've seen of his. One of them has been picked, so this kind of adds a cool element of strategy. But I love what I've seen of his. And I think he's a great director, and I want to see more now. And I hope, I'm going to hear about 2 other movies that I haven't seen at least. So I'm very excited. And it's a very, very bold pick, especially for horror in October. I think it's a good choice. And to get some new representation. I mean, Tim Burton's such a classic. Musker Clemens is also a classic. I mean, obviously modern classics, but they've been around for a while, whereas Mike Flanagan's like still on the rise and kind of becoming a modern, like this generation's type of like Carpenter, because we've already name dropped him. But I love the pick. It is my favorite movie I've seen of his, because I think it's a masterful film.
And I also couldn't pick Ari Aster, so there you go.
There you go. Right.
I would have picked Hereditary.
Yep. There you go. Andrew, any thoughts on this pick?
I am a little bit in the same boat as you, Dylan, because like this is one of the few directors where I'm probably going to be on the back foot a little bit, that Chad could have picked. I definitely would have preferred John Carpenter, who on that side I've seen all of his pretty lengthy filmography, which unfortunately I can't say the same thing for Mike Flanagan. So I'll see what I can do with this. I do really like Dr. Sleep. I like his Netflix shows. But I've actually only really watched the Haunting of Hill House one on Netflix. So even there, I don't quite know everything that he's done. So it'll be interesting to see what I can figure out to pick.
Cool.
But anyway, Dr. Sleep, I do really like that movie. Rose the Hat is one of the best like villain characters of the last few years. I hadn't read the book, so all that was new to me and stuff, and I thought it was a really cool addition to like the continuing the story of The Shining. So he did a good job with it.
Cool. JD?
Yeah, this is going to be fun because, as I said, I've seen all of his Netflix series, but I've only seen like a few of his movies. And again, one's off the board, and that leaves two, maybe, maybe even only one. So, like, but that being said, Dr. Sleep, I mean, Matt said a lot of what I was going to say about Dr. Sleep. It is the perfect bridge of being, an adaptation of the book and also being a sequel to to Kubrick's Shining movie. It bridges that. It walks that line so well. It is it's better than it has any right to be. And it's the fact that you got Stephen King's approval when you know how much he hated Kubrick's The Shining tells you everything you need to know about what he thinks what Dr. Sleep is. And I wish more people went to go see it because I wanted to see that Doc Holiday prequel they were talking about doing. Or sorry, Doc Holligan. Sorry, still butchering it. Halloran. Yeah, I wanted to see that Halloran prequel. I want they're saying that was going to be the follow up, and then that didn't do well, and they're like,
have John Boyega play that character. That would be cool.
Yes.
Because there's so much with that character, like that they in the book, and then even they hint at in the movie that like you can like cover like so much there.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Henry Thomas as Jack Torrance.
There you go. Yes, very good performance. All right, Maddie, this was your draft idea, and now you're going to be able to flex what you've been waiting all day to do. So let's hear it.
Okay. So I actually went through several different stages of my pick for this. Originally, I was like, "Oh man, my favorite directors. Let's look at these things." And then I thought, maybe I want to have like more fun with it, like pick someone that we're all gonna have fun picking their movies for. And I was like, I want to stay away from my top 5 favorite movies, not do directors for my top 5 favorite movies. And as I was going through it, trying to pick something, I kept coming back to this one director over and over again. And the reason I kept coming back to him instead of settling on him is because he made one of my top 5 favorite movies, and I wanted to exclude them. This director should be talked about in the same breath as some of the all-time great directors. He has made some incredible movies throughout his career. I hope you guys have seen them. And I can't pick this director without picking my favorite movie, which is Dead Poets Society. I'm picking Peter Weir. Peter Weir. And in doing that, I feel like I do leave a more popular movie on the table to be picked that would look better on the draft board. But I can't. I have to. Like if Dead Poets Society is an option, I kind of have to pick because it's my favorite movie. If you want to know why it's my favorite, I talked about it ad nauseum on this channel. Go watch any draft day where I mentioned it. Go watch the Picture This episode from 1989 where we talk about that movie, and I talk about it forever. If you want to know why I picked this movie, just go find just close your eyes and click on a video on this channel, and I'll probably talk about it. But yeah, so I'm picking Peter Weir, and I'm excited to hear which movies you guys pick from Peter Weir.
Well,
I love it.
I know what Dylan's doing with his second pick.
Maybe not so sure. Well, I'll be honest though. This is a director where I feel like it's very much centered around maybe one or two films, but he has a plethora of good, underrated, really awesome, almost masterful films to talk about. So I'm very excited to talk about Peter Weir, regardless of which ones I get. Now, I haven't seen a ton of Peter Weir, but the ones I've seen I really like. Not just Dead Poet Society, which I've also talked ad nauseum because we talked on Picture This about it. So I won't go on about that film specifically, but I'm very excited to go on about Peter Weir later in this draft. But because of the picks that have already been picked, it's now a question of which director do I go with next, now that I know the other four. So that's stressful, and maybe I don't want fifth pick after all, because now I'm gonna have to wait 8 more picks to get back after that. So I don't know, but I love the pick, Matt, and obviously if you're gonna pick this director, you had to go with that film.
Right.
You can stay away from top 5 all you want, but there's a reason it's your top 5.
Right, exactly.
And if this is a success, I see us doing many of these in the future, so there will be plenty more times to get a little bit more sabotaging with the picks, but it could be depending on how many Peter Weir things you've seen. This is like a good middle ground of like, it's a limited filmography for some because he's got very popular titles, but those popular titles, there's more obscure ones, but it is still a big filmography. So as long as you've seen them or heard of them. Chad, any thoughts? I know we've talked ad nauseum about Dead Poet Society here, but any thoughts on Peter Weir and Dead Poet Society?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a surprise for Matt. That was definitely one of the directors that I thought he might pick, but I just wasn't sure, how obscure he'd try to go. But yeah, definitely a great pick. I love it. I've seen a few of the director's movies, so I'm interested to see which one I can maybe get, or if I'll wait. I don't know yet, but Dead Poet Society, you had to, because it's just one of the best movies ever. It's like both parts. It's a great coming of age film, and it's both parts like brilliant, like hopeful film, but it's also like a really good tragedy as well. So it's one that I think if you're not standing on your desk at the end of the movie, you might not have watched it right. Don't be the guy that sits. But yeah, brilliant movie, and I look forward to seeing what everybody else picks from Peter Weir.
Andrew, any thoughts on Peter Weir?
Yeah. This is probably another director I'm a little less familiar with. I definitely know his like big hitter ones at the top, and Dead to Poet Society is definitely like one of my favorite movies too. It's kind of I don't know. It's just this Robin Williams performance in it, even though he's only a supporting character in the movie, just brings so much to the table, and his somewhat limited screen time, considering it's mostly about the students and their coming of age story. I always think of the show House, though, because one of the actors from it is in there, and
Robert Sean Leonard.
Robert Sean Lennon's in there. So that always tickles me about this movie. Also with Peter Weir, I've been meaning there's one movie in particular that I've owed a rewatch to for a long time. It's like a movie I watched a long time ago and everybody loves, but like I watched it and I was like, I don't know, I guess sure. But I've always been meaning to go back to it and being like, what did everybody love so much about this? Maybe that now that I'm more of a film fan, I can figure it out. But so this will be an interesting one to think about.
Cool. JD?
It's interesting. This is kind of like a middle ground for me. Like I've seen a lot of it, his big ones, and I've seen a couple of his smaller ones, and then there's a lot of like, A lot of ones I have not,
Right.
obviously. So it's going to be interesting.
And for the purposes of this draft, we can pick films we've never seen, which may happen to some of us, which is the nature of this fun draft. So
Yeah.
You can't make that a rule, Dylan. We have
right, you must have seen it. So if you have to go take 2 hours and come back,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll still be talking.
It's going to be interesting. Is that it's going to be interesting. As for Dead Poets Society, I'm trying to.
Oh no.
I'm trying not. Yeah, I'm trying not to say much because
Oh no.
Oh shit.
I am not a huge fan of Dead Poets Society.
Shoot, who do we got to call to replace?
Oh,
you?
no.
I'm kidding.
I know, right? We're only one round in. We're not even finished the first
I
round.
think Robin Williams' performance is great. That is the one undeniable piece of it. But like, I am melodramatic. It's very melodramatic, and I think one thing that I'm like, melodrama is not normally I don't even know what Chad's doing. But
He's eating.
yes. But yeah, it's distracting me. I can't not look away. Anyways, no, but like, yeah, I'm not a huge melodrama person. So this, like, it's a lot of melodrama, and it just is so I just can't get, but I couldn't. It's like one of those movies that a lot of people love, but I don't, and I get why people love it, but I just don't.
When's the last time you watched it?
I tried during the pandemic, oddly.
Oh no.
Yeah.
See, because melodrama is not something a word I would use to describe Dead Poets Society. Like, it's not, to me, it's not melodramatic. I mean, melodramatic is something by like freaking Pedro Almodovar or
Oh my
someone
God.
like that. Like,
Oh my God, what if I picked no?
oh, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Almodovar. Yeah. So yeah, I would not consider it melodramatic, but I get that it doesn't connect to you, obviously, the way it connects to me. And to be fair, I shit on your first pick. So
I was about to say,
what
we're gonna do at the next subathon. If we get 500 subs, we're gonna have Matt and JD locked in a room watching Hercules and Dead Poets Society.
Okay.
And we will
I
make
do
sure.
it. Are you game? Are you
Chad,
game?
Chad is gonna sit in the corner and eat and watch and make sure you guys don't kill each other. He'll be our moderator, and then we'll have you back on.
Chad's gonna be in the corner eating Sweet Baby Ray's. I saw that bottle.
Yeah.
I know. Sponsored by.
I'd be game. I'd be game for that. Truly, I'd be game for that.
Hercules Dead Poet Society double feature is in store. All right, guys, we're moving on to pick 5. Okay, we've got horror represented. We've got kind of 80s, 90s nostalgia. We've got some drama. We've got animation. So I want to go comedy. I'm going to go comedy. The director who I think has made some of the most underappreciated and underrated comedies of the modern, past few decades. And I'm not going with this is kind of like the Matt strategy of I'm leaving the most popular one on the board. Because I'm going with a passion pick of a film I don't think I've ever talked about on this channel, but I love with every fiber of my being that every time I watch it, I seriously consider putting it as my number 1 of that year. The first time I saw it, I didn't have the balls to do it. I put it at 20, and then it moved up to when I rewatched it to like 11, and then finally at the end of the year, I watched it a third time, put it in my top 10 of the year, and now it's like slowly creeping up to number 1 of 2018, and that is A Simple Favor by Paul Feig. I freaking love A Simple Favor. First off, I love Paul Feig, and I'll say right now, I think he is one of the most underrated, kind of with what Matt said about Peter Weir. I feel like he is just so underrated and underappreciated. Now, he's made some films that are very polarizing in terms of like fandoms and pissing off certain people, but he has also made some really, really hilarious comedies and utilized actors sometimes to the fullest of their ability. He's also really great at holiday films. Some are not as good as others, but he has, he's a Christmas guy. But also I think with A Simple Favor, it's this dark comedy, but what's so special about that film in specifically is that it's almost filmed if a dark comedy was filmed by Alfred Hitchcock with a 2018 budget. I just think it's so fascinating, the different interesting camera work that he has in it. I'm not even formulating grammatically correct sentences right now. I'm just streaming consciousness, but I really love the dark comedy. I love Blake Lively. I legitimately think she shouldn't have just been nominated for the Oscar that year. I picked her for my winner that year. I was like, this should be a Best Supporting Actress winner performance. Any year she's up for it, and she was not even nominated at any award show, because this is the type of film where it was like kind of like a late year, fun, kind of sexy. These are kind of hot stars of the time, but it's not really sure what audience it wants to be for. Like all these things that I feel like worked against it, when it really, I think, could have been an Oscar player in the way a lot of other films are, kind of this almost satirical film. A lot of great mystery in that movie. I love Anna Kendrick in that movie. It's kind of like bringing back the erotic thriller, but adding a dark comedy twist and filming it like Alfred Hitchcock, that I just loved. I think it's one of my favorite underrated films that I haven't gotten to talk about on the channel. I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity, because I think he's got enough variety in his comedy films. He's got some bad films to where if someone gets last pick and they have to struggle, maybe they're going to get a stinker, but there's also some other great gems. As I said, I left his most popular one on the board for people, and I genuinely think he is one of the funniest directors working right now. And I believe I've seen all his films. So, it felt like I could represent him well on this draft. It's a director I'm passionate about, Paul Feig, and it's a film I'm passionate about. And Blake Lively should have won the Oscar, and I'd even give it to her this year for 2018. Like, let's give her a retroactive honorary Oscar for it. I know it's probably a bold pick, but again, we're playing into our passions, I think, for this episode. Quite literally, I think everyone who has picked something has picked something that they're passionate about that may not be the consensus, and I'm glad we're not going with now that everyone's been picked, not going just like Scorsese, Spielberg, Coppola. Like, I'm glad we're not doing that. Hitchcock, like picking the kind of more popular mainstream. They have 20, 30 films directors. We're picking the ones that kind of mean something to us and also offer some fun strategy and maybe some obscurity, which I like. But I'll throw it over to whoever wants to talk about Paul Feig first. Matt, you want to go ahead? I saw your hand first.
This is a really good pick. It's obscure, but also he has some really great movies and some not great movies. He Flanagan, he also did a lot of directing in TV, and so like he was like an Apatow guy. Like they like Heavyweights is one. It's the movie that he didn't direct, but like that's a movie they worked on together. That kind of thing.
He was
Undeclared. Yeah, he was in it. He was.
And
in
TV. I mean, you got Sabrina, Freaks and Geeks. Like he is
Freaks and Geeks. He does he
30
a
Rock,
bunch of episodes of The
Office.
Office. Like he's a TV guy. But we're talking about his movies, and there are several that I really really like. And to be honest, even his bad ones are not like terrible most of the time. I won't say ever, but most of the time, even his bad ones are not terrible. There's something good to love in them. So I think this is a good pick. Simple Favor was simply the surprise of that year for me. It was I went in, number one, not knowing it was Paul Feig. Number two, just thinking it's going to be just like a random mystery movie. Like I kind of went because I just wanted to see a movie, and so I went to go see that movie.
That was also Movie Pass era where you could see just any movie and not have any risk,
Exactly, and it was to be frank, I really like on Andy Kendrick, so like that's why I went. Like I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go see this movie. While I'm in the theater, Paul Feig, directed by Paul Feig, comes up. I was like, what? I was completely surprised, and then I watched this movie, which was so unlike anything Paul Feig had ever made and has ever made since. And I was just blown away, and it really showed his range. It also just was a lot of fun, that movie, and I completely agree. Blake Lively was incredible in that movie and she deserved to be talked about in that. She deserves to be talked about for that performance.
Mhm.
I agree. She could,
For sure.
Yeah, let's give her the Oscar this year.
Yeah, I mean, I love Regina King and Beale Street, so like, I'm not too upset that she won. And obviously, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and The Favorite are terrific. But I think she could have gotten a slot next to them. So I don't know. Chad, I know you're a big Freaks and Geeks guy. What are your thoughts on Paul Feig?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Paul Feig as a director. I think, yeah, all of the movies that I've seen from him, I actually like. This isn't going to really be hard, even if I have to like wait for something to fall to me. I think I'll be fine. But we'll see how all that goes. I know that you love A Simple Favor, Dylan, and ever since you said that, I was like, I just don't understand why. Like when I saw that movie, it was one of those that just never spoke to me on like the same level. So I probably just owe it a rewatch just to, see what everybody sees in it. Maybe it's like my Dead Poet Society where I'm like, everyone loves that movie, but I just didn't think it was like anything like too special. But I do agree that it's like something different from Paul Feig, which is like kind of cool. Yeah, so I'll probably just have to give that another watch because I do love Anna Kendrick as well, and a lot of other things. And Blake Lively's great too. She was great in The Shallows. If you haven't seen that, another horror movie. Good pick. And I'm interested to see what everybody picks from Paul Feig.
Yeah, JD, I saw your hand was up. Do you have any thoughts on Paul Feig? Or
number one, Simple Favor, great movie, great pick, Dell. I love that movie. Henry Golding, that was my introduction to Henry Golding.
Yes.
And it's like that was such a surprise. Like he's just like I'm shocked he has not. They tried with Snake Eyes, but like I'm shocked he has not become like a bigger star yet because oozes charisma.
Yeah,
he is so freaking charming.
I think it was also the pandemic because he had the 1-2 shot of like Crazy Rich Asians. He could be a rom-com star, and then Simple Favor, he could be like a leading man, and then it was like, oh, pandemic, and then you got Snake Eyes.
He also had another one, but that happened to have been directed by one of our people here, so I can't mention it. That was really bad. But
I need to look that up.
That Henry Golding's so great in that. I also think that movie is convoluted in the best. That's like it's a convoluted in like the Hitchcockian way, best way possible. And like I also think Anna Kendrick gives a really good performance in that movie. She's just overshadowed by like Blake Lively's Femme Fatale, and like there's like a part of me that like wishes like there's like subtext there that like there's like a sexual tension there between those two that I wish they really played into more. Like they like just came out and said it, like because like they're like so great on screen together. Great pick though, and yeah, Paul Feig. He said or miss, but I think is that there are movies that aren't as popular that I kind of like. So if something falls to me, I can live with it.
Cool. Yep. Nerd, any thoughts?
I think what's fascinating about comedic directors and actors is what they can take from their mainstream comedy chops and put it into something that's a little bit different, because A Simple Favor is definitely not what Paul Feig usually does, which is pretty broad comedy. However, it is a thriller. It is a thriller that definitely uses comedy in very dark, twisted ways to kind of fuel the plot and the suspense and stuff. Anna Kendrick, especially, is really playing off of a lot of comedic beats in her performance. Blake Lively's definitely more the femme fatale as was described, and she's more in that genre, whereas Anna Kendrick is kind of like towing the line between the two things. And I think what Paul Feig brings over from comedy really suits well for this thriller, which is unexpected, and that's what I think makes Simple Favor such a fascinating movie. Is just it's almost him outside of his wheelhouse, making one of the best movies I can think of that subgenre, genre, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I like this pick from from you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was funny because I led with like, I'm gonna pick a comedy director, and I picked probably his least funny, or at least his least straightforward comedy. But I just think because he's just got a lot of range, so I'm really excited to talk more about him. An hour to take up our first round, but I think it was warranted because we were also kind of picking two things at once. We were picking a director and a film, so the next rounds will go a little faster. But we're on to pick round two. I get the first pick now of everything left, which is cool. I think I can save some Musker Clemens for later. Same as Burton. I think they've just got such wide filmographies. Even Musker Clemens isn't too wide, but there's like 7 that I've seen, so like I can go with those. And Weir has a wide one as well. Even though the Weir films I love so much. I mean, one of them is in my top 10 all time, but I'm gonna go with a Flanagan just because it's the least I've seen. It's the least I've seen, so I want to make sure I can get one that I've seen and I am actually passionate about, instead of just like, oh, I haven't seen that one, but it sounds cool later. Because in the spirit of the draft, like that's gonna happen. But it's also like, for me personally, if I have the opportunity to pick a Flanagan film I still really like, I'm gonna pick it. And because of that, I'm gonna pick Hush from 2016, I think. Sorry guys. Yeah, this is a film that I did not really know about, and it came out, I think, I don't know if it came out in festivals in 2016 and then came out in 2017, or if it came out in 2016 on Netflix. But I remember it was my freshman year of college, 2016, October. I was very homesick, and my mom and I are such Halloween fiends. We love watching. At the time, I wasn't a horror guy, so it was more like spooky movies. It was like Your Nightmare Before Christmases and stuff every Halloween, and I missed that, and I was very homesick. I was just 40 minutes away from home, but I really wanted to, like, it's my second month of college. I wanted to stay in the zone of, I'm a student, I got to be at college, and I was really kind of not sure what to do. I pulled up my laptop. It was the Halloween season. I was sad. I put on Netflix and I was like, oh, what's this movie? Watched it. And I was so in it the whole time. And I was like, I was so excited to go home. Then a few weeks later, I visited home and watched it with my mom also. So it's just a really fun memory attached to watching it for the first time. Because it's one of those films where very rarely now do you just open up a streaming service and like flip through and, oh, this one sounds cool, let's watch it. It's kind of the old fashioned way of flipping through the channels. I feel like society doesn't really do that anymore. They know what they want to watch when they watch something. They rarely just open up a service and say, oh, that one looks interesting. I feel like Tubi is a good one to use for that because there's so many just obscure titles. But this was a movie where I quite literally just saw it on Netflix and went, that sounds interesting, and watched it. And I think those are sometimes the most interesting discoveries, is when you're not even expecting anything great and then you get it. I mean, it's a deaf woman in her house. She's being stalked. It's very, centric to this one house. It's kind of a very straightforward home invasion thriller, but that extra added element of her being deaf. Also, I'm hard of hearing, so I kind of connected it to it that way. So I really, really like that film for that reason. It really played with what you could do with sound in film also, which is very interesting, almost like the reverse Quiet Place. So I really, really like it. And I think it's also 82 minutes, which, if you like a short film, if you don't have time and you just want to watch something quick before you go to bed on a crisp October autumn night, I think that's a good one. And Kate Siegel's great. John Gallagher Jr., Spring Awakening fans, woo! John Gallagher Jr. rocks. So yeah, that's
and her being deaf was actually, kind of how she got, well, I won't spoil things, but how she helped herself, at one point in the movie. But like, I just wanted to say, I think this is a fantastic pick, Dylan. I nearly thought about maybe choosing this one as well. There's a few that I really love from Flanagan, but Hush is one. It's not his first feature, but it's one that
introduce people to him.
He kind of got lost a little bit in the studio system and making movies that he didn't really go his way because you get studio notes and stuff like that. So Hush was like the first one that he really made on his own terms. He's like, I'm gonna strip everything down and just kind of work from the ground up and just make a movie. And he made one of the most the coolest home invasion movies with such a unique kind of twist on it. And I love Kate Siegel in it. She's Mike Flanagan's wife.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and she's in everything pretty much that Mike Flanagan does.
Cool.
Because of that, they're the big collaboration. That's one of my favorite things about Mike Flanagan, is that he basically has like a team now. Like you know, he
like
has
a Rat Pack, yeah. It's like he
it's like
uses the same people.
Adam Sandler, like all these people that just have like this, a lot of the same people, similar people in his movies, because it's just a team, works with the same, you know, cinematographers and, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, Hush is pretty fantastic. And Easter egg, if you're watching Hush, I mentioned Midnight Mass earlier. One of the books that the deaf writer in the movie wrote was Midnight Mass.
Cool.
You know, so yeah, there's a lot of like cool connective tissue throughout Mike Flanagan stuff. So yeah,
nice.
Matt?
I had one movie written down under Mike Flanagan here on my whiteboard, and it was Hush. It's my favorite Mike Flanagan movie. Like even with how much I gushed over Dr. Sleep, Hush is my favorite of the movies. And yes, shout out to John Gallagher Jr. I haven't seen Spring Awakening because I'm not rich and from New York. So
hey, I was a child when it came out, so I didn't see it either. But I've listened to it. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, John Gallagher Jr. from Newsroom and
Short Term 12.
Short Term 12 is the one that I was guessing.
And 10 Cloverfield Lane. I mean, he's great.
Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's great. I love him.
Yeah.
He's
I
really
was
great.
just shouting him out because he's a theater kid. Like he started as a theater kid.
I'm just kidding. I was trying to make a different point. I'm just kidding with you.
No,
anyway.
Let's just pretend there's a universe where 8-year-old Dyl was wealthy enough and was able to see a show like Spring Awakening on Broadway.
Like Richie Rich.
I feel like they would still let me in if I was 8. If I could pay for the ticket, they'd be like, "Sure, I'm gonna let him in." I mean, you're gonna see a lot of tatas, but sure.
Okay, so Hush. It was my number one pick. It was the only thing I had written down under Flanagan. Now I have to scramble and do something else, which is what this draft is about.
Welcome to the roulette.
Yes. Hush is incredible. I was just looking for a horror movie one day and came across it, and I actually watched it because John Gallagher Jr. is in it. Like, because I really love the Newsroom. So like when I was searching through, like there was like a preview of it and it showed his face, which is weird because like they don't show you his face till like halfway through the movie. So I don't know why they showed it in the promo stuff. But it's then I ended up watching it and I thought it was incredible. I thought that you're absolutely right. It's like a reverse Quiet Place. Like it adds such an interesting element to this horror movie, and especially the things that she has to deal with that you don't have normally think about in a horror movie, like being able to hear, or like her alarm system being blinking lights rather than a sound, like stuff like that. Yeah, I really need to rewatch it because I really, really like this movie, and you've now made me want to watch it really bad, and I'm very mad at you because it was my next pick. It was what was going to happen next. So
sorry, man. All right, Andrew or JD, have you seen Hush? Or yeah, Hush. I almost said the wrong time.
I have not seen Hush. It sounds good though, so I'll check it out at some point.
JD, any thoughts on Hush?
Nope, haven't seen it.
There we go.
It said it's like, yeah, definitely. There are a lot of Mike Flanagan films I want to see because I love all his Netflix things. That's one of them.
Well, it sounds like it was good that I picked it though, because it sounds like Matt would have taken it. So, Matt, what are you going to take? You need a Musker Clemens, a Burton, a Weir, and a Feig.
Burton's pretty easy. I've got like it's stacked. Musker and Clemens, although I do have a number one, it is also stacked. Like even if I get last pick on that, I'm going to pick a good one. Because JD already took the bad one. Feig is interesting because I want to go with him next, but also I also haven't seen a whole lot of Flanagan, and there's one of his I don't really like that I have seen, and I don't know that I want that or to have to talk about it. So I might have to go Flanagan right now because I feel pretty safe about talking about any of the things I have to pick with these other people. So I'm going to go with my third favorite Flanagan movie, which is a sequel / prequel to another movie, which is Ouija Origin of Evil.
Hell yeah, dude.
The fact that Ouija got a sequel, prequel at all is insane because that movie is bad. It's not a good movie. It's and I can't imagine it did well at the box office. The marketing was horrible. I remember watching it and laughing for the wrong reasons. Watching that trailer and laughing for the wrong reasons. Anyway, so I wanted to watch Ouija Origin of Evil, so I watched Ouija first. It was bad. Watched Ouija Origin of Evil. Really, I didn't have to watch Ouija because he retcons so many things with that movie, and it's fine. It's like, we don't care. It's fine that you changed everything because we didn't really care about that other one. But what he made was a really interesting, scary movie about a board game, which we didn't like. The idea that you would make the this Milton Bradley spooky
Hasbro.
no, is it Hasbro? That makes sense. Hasbro. This Hasbro board game, which is not really a board game. It's just there to scare each other. But the idea that you could make a coherent movie out of it seems silly, and it was silly because they didn't make a good movie out of it. But then they tried again, and they made a really great movie out of it. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's just a movie I like from Mike Flanagan, and it's very good. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
I've never seen it.
Don't watch Ouija. Don't watch Ouija. Just watch this. Just watch the prequel.
And this is a prequel?
Yeah, it's a prequel. It covers it. It exists within the same lore as Ouija, but you do not have to see Ouija to understand anything. In fact, again, they retcon so much that it doesn't really matter.
Cool. Anyone else? I know Chad, you've probably seen this because it's your guy. Chad, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was actually my introduction to Mike Flanagan, was Ouija Origin of Evil. I remember back in the day, Chris Stuckman reviewed this, and then I was like, I got to see this movie. And it was like really new at that point, back in 2016, also 2016 movie. And this one's interesting because it's one of these movies that, he got the go-ahead to make this from Blumhouse. And this is how cool Jason Blum is. He just basically said, look, you got to make a sequel to this movie, but all you have to do is just call it Ouija. That's all I care about. And then Mike was like, all right, no other notes? Cool, let's go. And he just made a really, really creepy film. If you've seen any of the Becky movies, you see Lulu Wilson come out with the Becky movies. She's one of the scariest little kids in this movie of all time. She's so creepy. There's like a scene where she's talking to it's like a male character. He's like, I think he's like a love interest to the older sister. She's like telling him like what it feels to die, and she's just like, do you want to know how it feels to die and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god, this is like really creepy. So yeah, it's a very, very creepy movie, a lot of really great imagery, and it kind of like is like one of the first where you get to see like Mike's like style come through, and it just so anyways, it's a really well crafted movie that has pretty much nothing to do with the other movie, so if that's holding you back, don't, because it's really good. It's really creepy, so check that movie out.
Cool. Andrew or JD, have either of you seen this one?
Yeah, I've seen this one. I was trying to figure out which horror movie makeup project I did it for, but I've been going through over the last few years, 4 years now. Yeah.
Based on board games, movies.
No. But just like basically all the horror movies that I have not seen, because it's definitely a genre where I was not always my favorite, but I've kind of taken it upon myself to like watch a lot more and to make a point of watching a lot of them. And in October, it's a great time to get a big bunch of horror movies. It was 2021 when I finally watched this movie. It was one of like, I don't know, a movie that I heard good things about, that it's this prequel that's way better than it's the movie that it's, I guess, spins off from. I really like Lulu Wilson in this. She was a really good child actor in this, and is even better in The Haunting of Hill House. So it was interesting seeing her in both of those, and I think I watched them about the same time. So it was interesting to see like slightly older her in Haunting a Hill House, and this one being a little bit younger, in two different horror movies. But I like this one.
Cool.
She's also
JD?
an Annabelle creation, so
Nice.
check that out.
Okay. Yeah.
JD?
So, horror. I'm going to echo some of Matt and Andrew's sentiments. Horror is a genre I did not come into till like my 20s, really. Like, I was not, as a teenager, I did not really like horror at all. And I, Origin of Evil, coming off of the first Luigi, it's better than it has any right to be coming from that movie. It's really good, and like I said, it's really a good showcase for Mike Flanagan and his kind of directing skills.
Cool. All right, we're gonna be moving on now. Chad, you were gonna get your first pick here of the other 4 directors. Which would you like?
I've been thinking about it, and I was going through, and I was just like, I'm kind of mirroring a little bit of the similar thoughts that other people have had, that the Musker and Clemens and the Burton, I think, just have like such a plethora, like a big field of choices that I would love to have. So I think I'm gonna go with Feig, because I think I can get like one of the weirs that I was looking at later. So I'm gonna go with my Feig. Where's the Feig list? And I'm gonna go with get the year right, 2015's Spy.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
Sweet.
this is probably because, again, I don't love a Simple Favor. I need to check that out again because I know it's very popular here. But I think this is his best movie just because it's so well made, so funny. It's like just a great spy movie, and it's called Spy. And I feel like with Melissa McCarthy, she's either brilliant or she's like the butt of a joke where the people go, I don't want to see more Melissa McCarthy. But I feel like this was one that was so well written. She's so funny in it. And, they're just big surprise from Jason Statham in this movie where he plays like, because normally he's just really cool. He fights, he talks with that accent, and just like he's really, just a cool guy in movies. But in this, he's a freaking idiot, and he's just like saying the wildest, funniest shit ever, making really dumb decisions, and it's just like a really interesting choice to make him just a dumb character. Melissa McCarthy just has so much charm in it. She's so funny. I love she's kind of like a desk worker, and then she gets to become the spy, and she's turns into a really good one. And I don't know. I love that whole arc for her. And I just think it's a really, really funny movie. This is just such a fun movie to throw on anytime. So yeah, this is my favorite Paul Feig movie, even though there's a few other ones that I like.
Yeah, I love it, and also the action itself is actually really good too.
Yes,
think, it genuinely, like I love the pot and pan fight versus the knife and stuff. Like I just love it, and it's funny because again, another scenario where there was a serious contingent of people trying to get a supporting actress campaign going. This one for Rose Byrne, but again, the Academy just wasn't biting. They just don't bite with Feig. I don't know. I don't get it. But it's like. Another stacked cast. I mean, yeah, like you said, Jason Statham, but also Rose Byrne, Melissa McCarthy. Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes for comedy, people almost overindulge in it to where they think they almost go overboard. And when I say they, I mean the people writing for her, because I don't think is ever the problem. It's always the material she's given. But I think if you really understand her as a comedian, and I think he does, Paul Feig, I think he's been able to get some gem performances out of her, and especially this movie. I think she does a terrific job. So I love the pick. It's a great one. Yeah. Any thoughts on Spy? Anyone else? Matt?
I think it's top 2 Jason Statham performances. Jason Statham doesn't really perform generally. He does a Jason Statham thing. I think that there's a movie from, I want to say 2008, 2007. I might be wrong about that he's in, called Bank Job, which he's really good in. And it was kind of a surprise, like, action drama movie a while back. I think he's great in that. And then this is the other one. And he's really funny, which is something he doesn't really get to do a lot. He gets to do jokes in his movies, but he does action jokes. Like, he does jokes where the action guy looks to the camera basically and winks at it. Where he doesn't really have to have comedic, like, be funny. He just has to say the funny thing, which is that it's different. In this one, I think he's actually funny, which I really dig. Melissa McCarthy is great. I think that what you were saying, where she's generally the butt of the joke or whatever, is true about her. But the fact is, Melissa McCarthy gives it. She gives it 100%. I hate it when people go more than 100%. She can't do that. But if I were to ever do it, it'd be right now. She gives 100% every time, and she's always putting her body on the line and putting her dignity on the line to try to make people laugh. And yeah, sometimes she makes bad movies, but I think that when she hits hard, and she hits out of the park. And I think this is one of the situations where she hit out of the park. And yeah, I really like this movie. I've only seen it once. I really need to rewatch it.
There's one joke that I absolutely love. It's the Jason Statham joke where she asks him, like, she's like, "Where'd you get those clothes?" or something like that. And he goes, "Well, I fucking made them, didn't I?"
I love it. Andrew, any thoughts on Spy?
I didn't actually get around to this one, but as far as Melissa McCarthy goes, she's sort of gotten this, and I think she's well respected, but she's sort of gotten this bad rap for the bad movies that she's made more than the good ones that she's made at this point, which I think is a shame, because I remember her back. My introduction to her is Suki from Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
And she's amazing on that show.
Yeah.
But then she really popped onto the scene with another movie
Yeah.
that maybe
Yeah.
somebody will talk about.
Sure will.
And then she kind of took off. Like, she really took off from there. And I've always really liked how she approaches comedy. Like, she can go pretty broad with, like, with what she's put in, but I think she does it really well. She and Spy, from what I've seen from it, from trailers and stuff, and what I've heard from it, it's one of the ones where they really lean into playing parody of the spy genre, but also, like, how much she can lean into that, like, really crazy comedy, and then, like, blend the two. So it sounds like a really fascinating movie, and I look forward to watching it at some point. I just hadn't gotten around to it.
All right, and JD, any thoughts?
Yeah, similarly, like, I've seen a lot of Paul Feig movies, but I remember this weekend, like, it was one of those weekends where it was there was like a 2 for weekend. I'm trying to look it up. What came out this weekend?
Was it like Inside Out or something, or was that a different year?
Maybe, I don't know. All I know for sure is that, yeah, it was a weekend where it was like this came out, and then there was another movie that came out, and I wanted to see I chose the other movie, and then I just never made it back. And
it's the same weekend as Insidious Chapter 3 and Love and Mercy, but knowing you, it was probably the weekend after, because Jurassic World was the weekend after, and maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. Maybe.
There you go. All righty. So we're moving on now to Andrew. You get your first pick of one of the other 4. And 2 Flanagans have already been taken. Or sorry, 3 Flanagans, 2 Feigs, and you still have a yeah, you have everything. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm starting to wonder what my strategy should be. You guys have pointed out kind of what the wealth of options in certain lists, and the scarcity in others. However, where I'm at with certain ones, I might have to go chalk, but we'll see here the rest of the way instead of um, try to pick the scraps of the ones that I don't know as well, or the things that are left. So, but there's definitely one of the lists that I don't have as many movies from, that there's still a really good option left, which I need to take that advantage now, which I guess is going chalked also. I'm going to go with Bridesmaids for Paul Feig,
Nice.
because, yeah, that's the right pick. We talked about Melissa McCarthy here, and the raunchy comedy in Bridesmaids across the board is crazy, but she definitely takes it to a completely different level. I'm not sure if I love all of it, of that part of the movie, but it's I really love Kristen Wiig leading this movie. Um, she hasn't really gotten a lot of chances within movies to really do a lot. Like she was kind of, I don't know, trapped on SNL for so long.
Yeah.
That she didn't really get to step out of that. And this movie, she definitely did. And uh, like it really is her movie, even though it's an ensemble movie. She definitely drives the comedy, the story. I sympathize with her character as we go through it a lot. I love her relationship with Chris O'Dowd. The scene with her trying to like drive past and get his attention. That's one of my favorite scenes
It's a good one.
in this movie. Um, uh, but yeah, they're great. You guys brought up Rose Byrne as kind of like somebody who should be talked about more in one of the other movies. And, but she's really underrated as a comedy actress
Hmm.
as well. Like I don't I don't know, because of the different types of characters she plays, maybe she doesn't get to play a comedic character quite so like dramatically or something. It's a little bit more understated, but whenever I've seen her in a comedy, like the timing she has and just like the clever delivery and lines from her, she has some of the best comedic timing of any
Yeah.
actress out there. And in this movie, she is really good too. So I like a lot about Bridesmaids. It's one of the most popular comedies of the
Yeah.
2010s for a reason. So
Yeah.
yeah, leave it at
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing Chad was talking about with Adam Sandler, how he gets a bunch of his friends together. It kind of had that vibe to it, where it's like just like the greatest like female comedians of the time just all rallying together. And Melissa McCarthy was kind of the unknown. She was the one who was like well known by some people, but like not a mega star. This kind of put her on the map too. It was very much like, oh, this is Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph from SNL, and Rose Byrne's here. We know her. Who's this lady? Oh, she's so funny, and she's gonna get an Oscar nomination for it. Like, I thought that was really cool. I mean, movies like this don't get Oscar nominations normally, but this got a screenplay and a supporting actress nomination. I think that says all you need about the film. I think it's a modern comedy classic, and it's just got so many great bits. I mean, the puking and the pooping, I think it's great. I think it's hilarious just because it's like the slow build of each character slowly figuring out what's going on as the audience is also figuring it out, and you're just like, oh shit, literally.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's like
That
the slow
part in-
realization. I love that kind of comedy where everyone's just like, or not even in comedy, but even like in horror where everyone starts like a killer reveal and everyone slowly gets it one at a time, and then the audience gets it. It's that great moment, except it's played for laughs here, which I love, and just the unseen image, but the image of her going down in the street, Maya Rudolph in the dress, and you don't see anything, you don't see any fluids, but you just know exactly what's happening, and just if
But
you've
just
been
the
through
way
bridal
she's deflating
experience-
as it's happening.
and I've never
Yeah.
been married. I have never obviously bridal dress shopped, but I have been in a wedding party. Shout out Zach. So I know at least how expensive the clothing is, and how crazy that would be if you actually soiled a wedding dress that you didn't even buy yet. So yeah, wild movie. I love it so much. It's my second favorite behind Simple Favor for Paul Feig, and then Spy after that. Like those three are just gems for me. So I'm a big fan of this one. Any Bridesmaids?
Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Bridesmaids is the movie that I just remember Bridesmaids from being the movie that when Carrie spilled wine on my laptop.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Oh shit.
No, now you have a really nice Mac that I bought you.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
Mac
So
Book.
that's the story of how I got my MacBook.
Nice.
I actually came to Bridesmaids really late, after like the hype had, kind of died down a little bit. And finally was like, all right, let me watch this movie that everybody's been talking about. And I kind of am on the same wavelength that I was with like a Simple Favor and stuff. Like I like it more than that, but like I just didn't see like framing it of like it is like all of these great like women comedians coming together and just making a great comedy. Like I can understand that, but I just don't think like all of the jokes work for me. So this is definitely one that I'm rewatching soon, and
I mean we're all in Dan's Discord. It's part of Movie Club this month.
To see if I do like it more, from that. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if this is a you had to be there movie, like around that time that it was big.
Yeah. Matt.
This is probably my late mother's second favorite movie. This is I actually probably should have taken this before Ouija Origin of Evil. Like I should have gone for this because it was between Hush and Bridesmaids. Which am I going to do first? You took Hush and I was incensed, and so I skipped over Bridesmaids and it was
roulette,
stolen.
baby.
Yeah, I know. So
your own device.
Yeah, I know, right? Hoisted on my own petard. So this movie's hilarious. My mom loved it. I watch it all the time in her honor now. Like now that she's passed away, like I watch it on her birthday and stuff like that. She loved this movie. My mom had a seriously juvenile sense of humor. So that scene with the wedding shopping scene
coming out of me like lava.
Made her laugh so hard. Like she loved every second of that scene. And yeah, like you were saying with the Maya Rudolph deflating in the street, it's happening. You don't see what's happening, but like you like there's an understanding, and it's like, oh my god, it's just so funny what's happening in this thing. We talked about Kristen. There's a bunch of kind of crimes that happened after this movie. The fact that Kristen Wiig hasn't written and starred in 1,000 movies since this movie is a crime. Like she wrote this and starred, and she was incredible across the board here. The fact that Chris O'Dowd isn't a romantic lead every yearly is insane. He's so freaking charming in this movie. And I watched the IT Crowd back in the day, so I loved Chris O'Dowd for a long time. But to see him finally break out, you're like, yes, this is our new romantic lead forever. And then no, he hasn't. That hasn't happened, and it's a crime. We've talked about Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph and Rose Byrne, the great performances from them. But I do want to shout out Ellie Kemper and Wendy McLennan-Covey. Like they complete just. Without them, the ensemble wouldn't feel complete. Like they complete this ensemble that's just so funny together across the board, and I really love it. So I love this movie. My mom loved this movie. It was going to be mine. And now Dylan and Commentating Nerd are on my shit list. So
okay, we are not invited to your wedding. JD,
I've been married for 13 years, so
you can redo the house. You can redo it. If Wilson Phillips is ready to perform, why not?
Oh, that's another thing I want to mention. I love there's this trope that I love. There's this bit that happens in some movies that I absolutely love, and that's when a music, a song or a musician is mentioned several times throughout a movie, and at the end we're all surprised by Backstreet Boys being in This Is the End, or Wilson Phillips being on in Bridesmaids. I love that trope, or I mean we call it trope because it doesn't happen that often. It's just something that happens in these movies that I really love, and I love that it happened in this.
It's a good moment. JD, any thoughts on Bridesmaids? And then we could segue you into your next pick.
So I was smiling for a lot of this because I thought I would be the only one that would be sharing this sentiment. Fortunately, in a rare case, that I share a sentiment
Chad, you agree?
to Chad, where I came to it very late, and I've talked about this with comedies a lot. If the humor, no matter how great, well respected like comedies are, if the comedy doesn't do for you, no matter how well made it is, if the comedy does not hit for you, it doesn't work. Like comedies are all based on how well does the humor work for you. And to me, I've always had a thing about gross humor. That it just a lot of films that were that are I like every now and then a very good place potty joke here and there, but when it's constant and consistent, like if that's like the whole basis, I can't do it. So yeah,
that's fair. I mean, comedy is subjective.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break here. Matt, if you need to go handle that real quick.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I got them as prep as possible, so this part wouldn't take very long. So hopefully they all cooperate. I'll be right back.
And I'll edit this out. But
let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Alrighty. So JD, take it away whenever you're ready and kick us off with your first pick in this wraparound. All right, ready? Go ahead.
So I dodged a couple bullets there because I felt pretty comfortable. I feel pretty comfortable with Burden. I feel pretty comfortable with whatever I end up with League. But Peter Weir and Mike Flanagan, I've seen Flanagan. I've seen all of the Netflix, but his films I've seen very limited. And Weir, same thing, very limited of his filmography. So I think this round I'm going to go Weir, and I think this is worthy of the round of two choice. And it's another film that's kind of near and dear to my heart, The Truman Show.
Damn it. Yeah.
Well, it's I had a feeling when you said that, Dyl, I knew, but on the other hand, to me, Jim Carrey, I mean, I was born in the 90s, and Jim Carrey, if you were born in the 90s, Jim Carrey was everywhere then.
Man. Yeah.
And Jim Carrey was, when his movie came out, you went to go see it. It was appointment viewing. And, to me, I think this is it's an interesting bridge between, it's a comedy, yes, but it's also very dramatic. I feel like this is you see the bridge of Jim Carrey, the comedic actor, and Jim Carrey, the dramatic actor in The Truman Show. I quote a lot, it's endlessly quotable. In case I don't see you again, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And
we're close. Yeah.
It has that comedic moments, but it's really about a man who's realized his whole life has been a lie, and now it's all coming apart, and it's all about how he deals with it. And it's it's so also reality shows and how things are kind of manipulated and deal with. It's way ahead of its time with all of that. It's really is that it's rewatching it during the pandemic. I'm this is real. Like as a kid, when I went to go see this, like all that stuff didn't really hit until you're an adult.
Hmm.
Like it's really, really profound and a really great movie.
There you go. Matt, as the Peter Weir picker, what do you think of Truman Show? I know this is the one you were alluding to, probably.
Yeah, it was when I said that that I'm leaving probably a more popular pick on the table. This is what I meant. Well, I think Dead Poet Society is also popular. I think this is, especially for people around my age and younger, it's probably the more well known movie. I remember when this came out. I loved this so much. Truman is probably the most wholesome character in all of film. Like he is such a wholesome character. Everything he does in that movie is completely without it's completely without something. He's so true. Like he's such a real person. It's not there's no cynicism in anything that he does. Everything that he does is completely true and honest, and I really love that.
He's a true man.
He's a true man. I really like that movie. There's a lot that I really love about it, but I really want to hear Dylan talk about it since he didn't get to pick it. It serves him right for taking Hush. He should have taken this instead.
I actually knew this as soon as I picked Hush. I knew I wouldn't get Truman Show just because in 8 picks, I don't think I'm going to get that wrapped around to me. It is in my top 10 of all time, though I'm happy with what I think I'll end up getting. I'm not totally like devastated, only because I think Peter Weir's great. But yeah, this film is amazing. It's a film that means a lot to me because it's all about kind of innocence and childhood and kind of birth in a way, even if it's coming at a later point in life, kind of finally like opening up to the world and awakening. And this movie was released like right around my birthday, so like it was in 98. So I just feel like there's also that sentimental tie of like I was born when Truman was, which is kind of cool. Obviously not really, but when this film was born, so was I, and I've just kind of held that dear because it's like your favorite movie from the year you were born. I feel like has just a special tie to you. I don't know if that's the same with everyone here, but like I always think about it. I'm like, what's the film from '98 that like I feel most drawn to? It's this one, and Corietta's Afterlife, which we talked about off air in this little intermission. So those 2 movies have just given me kind of my full perspective on life itself, and Truman Show is just so beautiful. I also think it's just so well shot. The use of the kind of the surveillance, the idea that we're looking inside this world, but he doesn't know we're looking. I love the way they play around with that in the direction, Peter Weir specifically, and then the way it opens up at the end and the production design, obviously that giant sea with the sky and the wall and the door and the stairs. It's in the intro to the Dyl Pickle Movie Network theme for a reason. I think it's amazing. It's on my laptop. I'll show you right now. Jim Carrey's my favorite actor, so I've got Eternal Sunshine right there. Where is it? There. And then I got Truman climbing the stairs right there, because it always kind of keeps me reminded to like keep moving forward, up and going. So I love it. But I'm not mad that JD got it. Obviously, it should be a second round pick. I know there was a strategic element to Matt and I picking Mike Flanagan, and Matt couldn't pick another Peter Weir anyway. But I definitely think this is a worthy second round pick. It's a worthy first round pick if we had been given the directors ahead of time, but because a director had to be picked, actually I don't know, because there's a lot of great movies in the first round, but this is a worthy early pick is what I was trying to say.
Just to add on to what I was saying about just a quick thing I thought about is how existential this movie is, and it thinks about who you are and where you are. Even though your situation is never going to be like his, it just kind of makes you think about your place in your own environment. And I love that even extends to at the end when Christoph finally reveals himself to Truman, and Truman's like, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm the creator of a TV show." It's like just that whole that
mic drop
deity thing where it's like, I'm the creator, and then goes on to tell of a TV show.
Right. So that's great. Yeah. Andrew, any thoughts on Truman Show?
I actually was late to the party, I guess is the right word for it, with this movie. I have this thing one of my other big themes for like the movies I watch, other than directors and stuff, is what I call real regrets to remedy. It's basically all the like big hitter, like most iconic movies that I have not seen, and over the last several years, it's like that's been a big focus. Is just kind
Mhm.
of getting through those that I haven't seen. Truman Show was on the top of that list for a while, and I finally got to it like I think a couple years ago
Nice.
for the first time. And I do really love the like meta-ness to it, and how it explores, like Matt was saying, kind of those existential concepts of like the meaning of almost like meaning of life and like
Mhm.
your existence and different things like that. And it's pretty cool how this movie does that.
Yeah. Chad, any thoughts on Truman Show that haven't been said?
Yeah, I mean it's a really good movie. You guys said a lot of really great things. It's not one that I return to a lot, but I definitely love when I watch it. It's definitely not as good as Ed TV though. That was a
Huh?
joke. That was a
Oh,
joke.
All right, we
I've
need to
never seen that
replace.
TV, so I didn't
We need
know.
to replace JD and Chad. So it's
It's
weird.
like there's going to be a survivor element to this draft where every round we vote off someone for gnarly takes.
It was just because Ed TV came out like the
Let's
year
talk about that off air.
I happen to agree with Matt in this case that Truman Show's better. Okay.
I didn't say it was better. I said it was more. I said it was more popular.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Moving on, JD. Let's do the wraparound. What's gonna be your next pick? We're only around 3. We gotta speed it up a little bit, but what's gonna be your next pick?
So Mike Flanagan is my next pick. I'm very fortunate. I've only seen like 3 of his movies, and this happens. I knew I wasn't going to get Doctor Sleep as soon as Chad said it, but I'm happy to get Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game is a it's you know, when you see Doctor Sleep and like how epic that is, and then you can see how Mike Flanagan can also do just like a really tight thriller. I mean, you know, it's mostly a two-hander, and like she's dealing with her dead husband. Like it's basically it's mostly a two-hander for most of it. It's like she forget it. Carl Gino is like stuck to her bed, and she can't get out, and she has her dead husband coming back as her conscious, taunting her with all her guilty feelings about their marriage and how that all panned out in her life decisions, and she all has to reckon with it. And then there's a twist at the end, which I'm not going to ruin.
Spoilers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that, but like,
I've never seen it, so don't spoil.
yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
I'm
seen
not
it
going
either.
to, but like, there's a twist that I'm not going to ruin, but it's great, and yeah, you should go see it. It's one of, you know, as I said, it's one of the great, nice, you know, short little nice little thriller.
Nice.
I'm tired.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's great. I just wish I could add because I've never seen it. But Andrew, have you seen this one?
I have not seen this one.
Okay, so
no.
Chad, as the only other person who has seen it, what do you think of Gerald's Game?
Yeah, I'm actually excited for all you guys if you decide to check it out. It's a Netflix movie, so it's really easy to watch. It's not that long. Gerald's Game. I'm sure Matt's read the book because
I haven't yet.
You haven't yet, okay.
No, it's not part of the Dark Tower thing, but it is on my list to read.
Yeah, it's one of those where when I was reading Gerald's Game, I was like, this is never going to get adapted to a movie because it's just so, you know, it's basically a woman trapped to the bed, handcuffs because her husband wanted to play a sex game. You know, and it's, you know, sexy, right? Handcuffed to the bed, but then immediately, this is the beginning of the movie. This is not spoilers, but he dies. He dies, and then she's just trapped to the bed, and yeah. So basically, the book is just a lot of like her thoughts and her thinking about her past and her childhood, and just a lot of different things. And I'm just like, that can never be made into a movie. But Mike Flanagan did it just like he did Dr. Sleep. You're like, this dude knows how to adapt a Stephen King joint, and he did it so brilliantly. Henry Thomas is also in this one. Bruce Greenwood plays the husband.
Yes.
it's a very, very, very good movie, and a lot of eclipse imagery, and a lot of really creepy stuff. Very well directed. Please check this out if you haven't.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it's so like, and going back to like that, the way that that the death scene, like, again, it's very early, it's in the trailer, so we're not spoiling anything by saying this. The way Mike Flanagan shoots that, shoots that the death scene of the husband played by Bruce Greenwood, like he's in the midst of this, like, being like, one moment he is like being very, very manipulative and sadistic, and the next moment he is very scared, and like and it just, like, all of a sudden he just passes out to do a heart attack. It is really, like, it is shocking how well that is shot.
As part of, I haven't seen this, but if I can comment on it just a little bit, as part of my Stephen King Dark Tower read through, one of the books on my list was On Writing, which is his memoir about it slash writing book about how to write books, and because Stephen King is a character in the Dark Tower series, that was on the list. So he talks about in that how he writes books, that he never plots out books, which obviously is a criticism of his, but with having to do with endings, because he doesn't plot them out, and that's why that happens. But he always goes based on a concept, and the concept is usually a what if. What if this happened? What would that story be? And you could just tell what that is just based on what you said. What if a woman's husband died after handcuffing her to her bed? Like, that's obviously the what if that he came up with and then wrote the story. It's interesting when you can see the what if in
the premise.
Stories.
Yeah. Nice. All right, cool. So all the Flanagans have been taken except Andrew hasn't taken one. Are you going to take one now, or are you going to hold off and take something else? No Musker or Clemens have been picked yet since Hercules.
Mm-hmm. So as I was talking about before, I'm at this position where, yeah, there is one more Flanagan left. I could probably pick it, but it doesn't matter. I'm the only one left who needs to pick it, so I could pick it whenever. So, yeah, Telegraph maybe, but so I think I maybe need a double down and just go with chalk heavy at this point. Like, if I'm looking at my draft board so far, I've got two good picks to really start it off. So I think I'm actually going to go with Musker and Clements next and get one of the Disney heavy hitters. I'm going to go with Aladdin.
Nice.
It's my number 3 favorite anime movie of all time. So it's my favorite of these. I could have talked about really any of these movies and how much I like them, but this is definitely my favorite from them. Robin Williams' Genie is like a feat of animation and voice acting, and the merge of the two is really an impossible creation. We saw just how impossible it was. Will Smith did a good job in like the remake at what he was doing, but he wasn't like, they weren't going to be able to remake that Robin Williams sort of situation with that. And but that's just something amazing about Aladdin. Jafar is one of the best Disney villains, I think, or the most intimidating present, or like screen presences and stuff. Iago's a great, like, little weird, like, villain sidekick, but he's actually even more fun if you like watch like the direct-to-video sequels. Return of the Jafar, he's probably even better. Jasmine is like one of my favorite Disney princesses, because I feel like she has a little bit more agency, I guess, than some of the other ones. But also I think their romance works better. It's not just like love at first sight. There's a little bit of like this, I don't know. I think they understand each other, and you get that when they first meet and stuff. And then as the movie unfolds, so yeah, I really like all the different characters, and the animation is fantastic. as I was saying with the genie, but like the parade scene with like the Prince Ali
Mhm.
like sequence, all that is really great. So Aladdin's my next pick here.
That's a great pick. I don't have a lot to add, so I'll just throw it over to JD next. But you said it all. I mean, it's a classic for a reason. It's got amazing performances, songs, everything. And yeah, for Musker and Clemens, I mean, this was one of the big heavy hitter ones that kept the studio thriving. So JD, as the Musker and Clemens representative here, how do you feel about the Aladdin pick?
Oh yeah, it's a classic. It's definitely it is up there for me. It is amazing to think when it comes to Robin Williams that the way he agreed to do Aladdin was he wanted to be uncredited and he wanted to not be in any posters or anything like that
Mhm.
because he thought he was also doing Ferngully and at the same time, and he had promised that like he was really going to push for that one. So the only way he would agree to it was if they didn't do that, and that's what led to like that's what led to the disenfranchisement with Robin Williams and Disney
Mhm.
was they didn't keep to that agreement because they're like, why would we do that? You're Robin Williams, and we got you in our movie.
Right.
Like we're not going to do that, and but it's amazing to think in hindsight that that was the one he was trying to push, and not a lot of people remember Fulgoli, and
I love
everybody
Maddie.
remembers Robin Williams in Genie. And it's also amazing to me when it comes to Muster and Clemens that like they do these films in like in most cases less than 90 minutes before credits, and these remakes are always like 2 hours.
Right.
It's like it's ridiculous. It's one of the like even if I end up liking the remake, it is all the stuff that they like add to pad it. It is a lesser version of like the Musker and Clemens movies.
All right.
The
But
ba- the
but
the
Allie
baddie
from New
rap is
Girl.
legendary.
I was gonna say, yeah, that and Allie from New Girl falling in love with the genie is also great. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that side plot. But Chad, any thoughts? I mean, we've talked a lot about Aladdin on previous drafts, but what are your thoughts on Aladdin? I know your tie with Whole New World.
Yeah, Aladdin is a really good movie. It's consistently like one of the top ones that's not called The Lion King in Disney animation. And I love it. I love his arc and the music, and yeah, A Whole New World is just one of my favorite songs. So yeah, classic Disney Renaissance film, incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely great pick. Of course, I
Matt
mean
and
that was going to be the next pick.
yeah, yeah. Matt.
All right, friends.
Oh.
I'm 39 years old,
Okay.
which means that I was. Excuse me, Dylan. Don't.
Oh no,
undercut my
I just thought I didn't
you
realize there
with
was
the
more.
laugh.
I thought you were just I didn't know that was part of the lead in.
No,
I was
no.
confused.
I was
got it now.
pausing for
It's part
drama.
of the overall. Yeah,
All
I got
right.
it. I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Repeat.
I'm 39 years old, which means that I was 8 years old when this movie came out. I was the target audience for this film when it came out. I saw it in the theater. My grandma got it for me for my birthday on VHS. I later got it on DVD from not her but from someone else for my birthday. Like when it finally came out on DVD. I really love this movie. It's one of my favorite Disney movies. But even so, back then, like Beauty and the Beast has always been. That's not one of theirs, so I can talk about it. Beauty and the Beast has always been my favorite animated or Disney movie. But like Lion King and Aladdin have always been like right there, like holding the spot for number 2 for most of my life. I love this movie. I saw it in the theater. I absolutely loved it. I've watched it 1,000 times. Robin Williams is unmatched, the greatest voice performance of all time. Like, and there's so much of him in it, and I really love that. Like, you can feel him in that role.
And he's not playing a character; he is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's I really love this movie. It's really great.
I was gonna say, I think I don't know if it's the same DVD release, but I believe I remember that DVD release. It was probably in the early thousands, right? 2000s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. That DVD's I could visualize it now. The bonus features on that DVD were the best. You could go on like little carpet rides, and it was POV, almost like those roller coaster videos on YouTube where they sit in the front row, and like I would turn off the lights and put that on the TV and like sway and feel like I was actually
It's
riding the
amazing
carpet.
to think of how ridiculous those DVDs were. Like, and nowadays we don't get anything nearly as good as that.
Yeah, special
Like-
features. Bring back virtual reality POV magic carpet.
I
rides,
like-
please.
There you go.
It's amazing. All right. So moving on now to pick 3 in this round. Chad,
I like
you're gonna
this idea. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, Matt, you're back now.
Oh, he's
Okay.
frozen.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah,
I
you're
don't know
back.
what's going on here. Can you hear me right now? All right.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I like this idea of 20-year-old Matt and 7-year-old Dylan both sitting on the floor across the country from each other, watching the bonus features of Aladdin,
Oh,
just with the same amount of joy in their eyes.
Hey, let's do it
I like
now
this idea.
at 25 and 39. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
like-
I gotta dig it up.
29, 33, and 39, 33, and 29.
Yep.
I want, let's do
Let's
it.
do it. All right, Chad, what's gonna be your next pick?
yeah, I'm sticking with what I said about Musker, Clemens, and Burton. So I'm gonna go with my my Peter Weir movie. And honestly, as much as I like, I mean, if Matt somehow didn't go with his favorite movie, I definitely would have picked Dead Poet Society hands down. But my second one probably actually wasn't going to be The Truman Show, even if it was still there. I think I was going to go with this one, which is a kind of a new favorite because because Dylan and I watched this for Picture This, and I'm sorry, Dylan, but I'm going Master and Commander: The Far
This
Side.
is the one I was gonna pick over Truman Show. Damn it.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Well, because I knew I wasn't gonna get Truman Show. I should have picked this.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, there was only one other one that I've seen, so it was going to have to be like this or that. And as much as I like the other one that someone probably will pick soon, I had to go with this one because, as you can see, Dylan's very upset because we both really enjoyed this movie.
Well, yeah.
During that time. So yeah, check out that episode of Picture This. When we talked about this because it was a pleasant surprise, I believe, for both of us. It was the first watch, and I don't love period pieces all the time, like big epic kind of period pieces. But this one, I feel like wasn't it like on the shorter side of movie? No, it's a longer one.
Oh, it's long. It's like
Oh,
almost
it's
3
long.
hours. Yeah.
Well, I think it's because it doesn't feel long. I think it's
Right.
because you like really get into it. And what I love about this one is that it, even though it is a big epic, it feels small scale because you're just like on a ship with these people.
It was on the shorter side because we watched Return of the King that year. That's why. That's how it feels.
We did watch theatrical cut too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Master and Commander, it's really just about the characters. And that's what I really loved about it so much is just you really get to know these characters and you really get to feel what it's like to live that sea life. And there's some really harrowing parts and sad parts and stuff. And just the conversations they would have are just really enthralling. And it's not really about like the naval battles and stuff all the time, but I had to go with this one.
Yeah. Matt, you picked Peter Weir, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
All I want to say about that, it's great. It's epic. I'm pretty sure it's also adapted 2 books because Master and Commander and The Far Side of the World are two different books,
Yes,
and they were both
it's like a
adapted into
series
that.
of nautical
Yeah.
diaries that they took the
Yeah.
first two, I think, and made them one film.
Made them one and yeah. So the first two are Master and Commander, and The Far Side of the World are the two novels, and they put them in one and made it Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. Anyway, so the fact that they were able to make such a great movie at the length they did out of two books is something. This is the year Return of the King came out, so I only had eyes for Return of the King. However, on revisit, I realized how much weight this actually held that year, and it's great. Honestly, okay, let me take this time to say you guys need to watch more Peter Weir movies. When we're done with this, go watch Witness. I'm sorry I said it. I'm sorry I said it.
I'm sorry
because I'm not supposed to say titles, but
it's okay. I mean, it sucks because I in the spirit of this, I knew there was going to come a director or two that I was like, I had a few that I've seen, and then the rest I just haven't, and this was the only other one I had seen, and it sucks because I know Chad's seen the other one, and I haven't, so it's just like,
we will watch the one that Matt just mentioned.
Right, and it's also because like I looking back at our picture this rankings too, it's like I like this even more than Chad, so it sucks. It's okay though. I mean, I'm glad you got it, Chad.
I should have went with the one Matt.
No, I mean you got to play the strategy.
I have actually seen that.
You got to play the strategy, and it's fine. It led to everyone dogpiling on me, which is fine because I deserve it. But yeah, I love this movie so much. It's actually my second favorite Peter Weir movie after Truman Show. I think with time, I don't know if it would be my number one, but it's so good. I just think it's Matt, I saw you roll your eyes, but it's because we talked about Dead Poet Society. Trigger warning from my high school experience, personal stuff. It's hard for me to watch that movie without. Sorry, I'm gonna well up in tears now, but which we talked about on Picture This. Why I don't revisit that movie as much. Whereas this one, it's more of like it doesn't have as much a traumatic effect on me. And I think this movie is just so. The thing I love most about this movie is how detailed the craftsmanship is in getting every single detail of the ship correct. Because it's not like we're telling a story and this is just our setting, but it's instead let's actually just like make it as authentic to the nautical experience as we can. I mean, every single detail is so well done. Everything is so well shot. The production design. In a world where The Return of the King doesn't come out that year, this sweeps all the techs. I mean, the reason it doesn't have Oscars, it has cinematography Oscar, but the reason it doesn't have more Oscars is because Return of the King was there and it was just that much better. Rarely do you ever go up against a movie that is just equally as much of a technical juggernaut. But I'm happy you got it, Chad, because I'm glad it got picked as early as this and it didn't get around to me. I would have definitely picked it, but now I can pick one of your favorite Musker Clemenses from you, Chad. I thought that's what you were going to do, is to prevent me from picking that one, but I'm very glad that you got it because it is a great film. But I'm salty. But that's the point of this draft. The roulette, we knew it would screw over some people, so that's the fun of it. JD, any thoughts on Master and Commander? Have you seen it?
I mean, yes. I mean, it's been a long time. I will say that I think I really like Paul Bettany and Russell Crowe's dynamic together, and I really like the battle sequences. It's really something I need to rewatch, though. It's like one of those I have not watched in a long time, and I need to rewatch it. Yeah. So, but I remember liking it when I saw it.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, any thoughts on Master and Commander?
So this is the movie that I owe a rewatch, even though I apparently watched Return of the King when it came out and loved that movie, of course. But for whatever reason, watching Master and Commander, probably not that same year, maybe a little after, maybe the same year, I don't remember. But something didn't really connect with me. I did feel like it was overlong at the time. I felt myself drifting off, and I think I may have dozed off a couple times, but I think I just had different sensibilities then, and I think if I watched it now, I could zero in and focus better and be able to actually pay attention to the movie. So I don't know. This is one I definitely want to revisit because so many people praise it, and I've just always been like, why do people love this movie so much? But maybe I just need to rewatch it and figure it out.
There you go. Well, it's a great pick, Chad. Moving on to pick 4, Matt. You already got your Flanagan and your Weir. What would you like next?
I'm gonna go with my Musker and Clements. Even though that's pretty deep, but I don't think it's gonna be the one that you want, honestly. I said before that Beauty and the Beast has been my favorite Disney movie for decades, and I've always loved it. It's been one of my favorite movies. There's another movie that now rivals it that didn't used to, it just
clicked in my head what you were gonna pick. It was that Bridesmaids moment of I know it's gonna go down. Yep.
Yeah. I talked about it a lot on this one. I'm just gonna say it's Moana. Moana is my favorite of the modern Disney movies. There's something about it that just really hits for me. I talked about it a lot, so I'm sure I said it more eloquently on another episode. So I'm not going to go into it a lot today. I just really, there's something about this movie that I really love. I love that Moana is now one of my favorite Disney princesses. Just because, like, it used to be Belle, now it's Moana. Like, it's because she doesn't need that romantic relationship. Like, that's not what it's about. She is embracing her own destiny, which is really what they all do. But I just really love that. This movie, I mentioned before, "Go the Distance" is one of the greatest I Want songs. My favorite I Want song from all of Disney is "How Far I'll Go," and Lynn should have won his EGOT on that day instead of "City of Stars," which is not even a whole song. It's half a song. But anyway, it's one line repeated over and over.
Right. Even the duet they sing at the piano together would have been a better choice than the song proper. The reprise has more lyrics.
It does. Anyway, but I love the music so much. I listen to it with my kids all the time. My kids my kids love it too. I think my kids are upstairs in bed while they should be sleeping, watching it right now, which is just because we love it in this house. We're a Moana household. So Moana.
There you go. I love it. JD, I'll throw it over to you as a Musker Clemens rep. What do you think of Moana?
I did consider the coconut for a hot second. I mean, before I went to Hercules, before I decided to go with my heart, but that I agree that Moana is the best Disney film in years. In years, the fact that they make you care about a hen that doesn't speak and is voiced by Alan Tudyk, and all he does is balk, and yet you care about what happens to him as much as you care about what happens to the city or the island, and Moana and Maui. That is a feat in itself, and I cry every time Moana does the reprise of "How Far I Go, I Am Moana."
With the sting.
Every time,
yes,
I am Moana. I can't do it. I don't have to.
Oh yeah, no, it's so good.
I tear up every single time. I also tear up every single time. She gives the heart back to and the reveal of that is so impressive because the whole movie is about knowing yourself and realizing yourself and remembering who you are and what you do, and it's just a great choice, Matt.
It's a real moment. It's a real symbolic moment of healing when she gives her the thing back, and she almost realizes who she at that moment remembers who she is, and it takes in this case someone else had to help her with that healing, but it's a very healing moment. I really love that moment as well.
Andrew, any thoughts on Moana?
I really love Moana too. It's definitely one of my favorite modern Disneys, like people have been saying. The songs just hit the sweet spot for me. Like every single one in this movie, even the the shiny song that people kind of write off as like the worst
Chad
one.
doesn't.
But that one is
Absolutely not
that
great.
one's a pretty cool song.
Chad's a
It's
shiny
just
fiend.
I don't know. But my favorite like introduction song is the Consider the Coconut song.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
With the way we are. But and this just does so well of like setting up her environment. It's not just a montage of her growing up and like from childhood to where we are going to have her the rest of the movie. It's like you get a sense for the culture, their little town, where they came from, why they're all nervous about the ocean, all that stuff. Just like as a counterpoint, like I felt like in Encanto when they tried it, their introduction song in that one, also Manuel's song, they did not do as good of a job, I feel like, introducing the characters, the town. It was like a little bit more cookie cutter, whereas in Moana, it's just much more rich of a song and how it danced through the town, and like lyrically, it's creative and not like doesn't feel derivative. It's its own kind of thing. So I just really love that song. In general, the first half of this movie, basically from the beginning through her meeting Maui, I work with kids and I've rewatched that part of the movie so many times, but it's okay because that's like such a great chunk of the movie. That first half has all the songs, most of the songs are packed in there, and it has some of the best moments, and it's just really fun to kind of watch those over and over and over again. It's a great rewatch. So yeah,
Yeah,
I love
definitely. Christopher Jackson sings that opening song as well. So
Where we are, yes.
Yes.
I mean, what a better way to like cast a role, voice and singing with two of the coolest guys ever, Tamora Morrison and Christopher Jackson. Like that's awesome.
It's the
Like
perfect
Boba
pairing.
Fett and George Washington.
Yeah.
Perfect pairing. Perfect pairing.
Yeah. Chad, any thoughts? I know we've talked
Yeah.
on our Disney ranking about it, but
Yeah, just quickly. Check out my channel, Chadwick Webb, where we rank stuff. But no, I laughed earlier because Dylan or JD brought up the chicken, and I know Dylan hates that chicken.
Hey.
hate's a strong word. I just think choosing to leave Pua on the beach and not take him along. I feel like it's almost justice for Pua than it is anti hey. It's pro Pua, and I feel like he needs to be in the movie way more.
But I do really like Moana. How Far I'll Go is just one of my favorite songs. I just adore it so much. I listen to it all the time. And Shiny. I'm glad Andrew brought that up because I love Jermaine Clement as that crab. I just think he's so funny. And Jermaine Clement is just a brilliant voice actor. And so normally I don't always listen to the entire Moana soundtrack, but I will listen to How Far I Go and just skip the Shiny because those are my some of my two favorites. But yeah, it's just a really brilliant movie. I love the inclusion and representation in it, and it's really fun and cute. So yeah,
I was really hoping in Avatar: The Way of Water that Jermaine Clement's character would get to fight a giant crab, but he did not. So.
Yeah. If I may, Dylan, real quick. Just for your anti hey or at least justice for Pua. Hey doesn't emote. He's a dumb chicken, and that brings a lot of comedy. Imagine someone like Pua who can emote being in those situations. Would it be as funny? No, it would be terrifying. Watching that,
feel nervous for
yes,
Pua.
Exactly. You don't feel as nervous for Hey because Hey can't emote and feels just like this dumb extra thing, and you don't think they're going to kill off Hey, but there's an inherent tension putting something like Pua on that boat.
Right. And I don't even need Pua to be on the boat. I'm talking screen time. Like every few scenes, go back to Pua. What's Pua up to?
What's Pua?
Let's revisit Pua. All right. So pick 5. See, I just pitched a great sequel.
Just hard cut to Pua just reacting for a second.
I'll admit, I was going into this. I was confident that Chad would pick his Musker Clemens or his Burton, and then Matt would get one of the other, and I would be able to take Master and Commander as my Weir. I was very confident I'd get it, and then I would double feature that with a Musker Clemens film that feels very tangential to it. But now I'm abandoning that strategy because I've been effed over in a good way, because that's fun for draft audience watchers, but not for me. So I'm going to go completely different, and I'm going to pick two movies that I think Matt and Chad are big fans of, because I know they're next up and they need these two directors, or Matt doesn't need one of their directors. Matt already got a Musker Clemens, but I'm gonna take my Burton first, though. He hasn't been brought up since Nerd did, so I will bring up my Burton. And I feel like this is like my ultimate like comeback. But I don't know. I don't think it's gonna upset Matt as much, just because I know Matt. There's another two films that you are probably very fond of. But I'm going with one that I think is just so unique and so different and so fun. It's Ed Wood. Ed Wood is going to be my pick for Burton, just because it's not even my second favorite Burton. Edward Scissorhands is my favorite, and then there's another film I put at number 2. This is my number 3, but I think in terms of just uniqueness, I just think this is so unique as a biopic, also as a film about filmmaking, as a film study about bad filmmaking. I think it's very fascinating. Obviously, Matt and I covered Plan 9 in Outer Space, from Outer Space, and I just love the performances here. Obviously, the central star has had some controversy, but Martin Landau is so good as Bela Lugosi in this film. So good that, like, when I didn't see this film, I was always pissed off that Samuel L. Jackson somehow lost the Oscar for Pulp Fiction. I was like, how in the world? And who else lost? Was Morgan Freeman? No, he was for lead for Shawshank. But that year, I was like, how did Samuel L. Jackson lose for Pulp Fiction? And then I watched Ed Wood, and I was like, oh, okay, I see why. It is probably one of the best supporting performances ever that isn't performed by someone named Christoph Waltz or Heath Ledger. I think it's one of my favorite Oscar-winning supporting performances for that reason, and I just think it's an amazing film. It's got everything in it. It's drama, comedy, intrigue, horror, and it's shot so well. And I think because Burton, you think zany Burton, quirky. This is quirky and zany, but not in the traditional Burton sense of, he's not ripping something off of a coloring book and like making this really abstract world. It's still set in our world, but it's using the abstract thematic stuff that we see in a lot of his films. What are you laughing about, Chad?
Because I thought you were gonna maybe do the when you said this film has everything. I thought you were gonna do the Stefan thing.
Oh yeah. We don't have time for that. But yeah, but I picked Ed Wood, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm sorry, Matt. Matt, you look upset, so I'll throw it over to you.
I'm not okay. That's my number. That's my top. That's my favorite Burton movie. And listen, Dylan, I'm not as mad that it's you because you are my co-host on Framewreck.
Right, so it feels apropos.
So it feels better than if it were someone else. But yeah, Ed Wood he created one of the greatest bad movies of all time, and this is the movie about that. Like, I love that movie. I love that Tim Burton kind of leans into some of Ed Wood's worst instincts while making this movie. Like it feels Tim Burton, but it also feels like not like somebody else made it. Like it was made in old Hollywood on a low budget. Like that's kind of the way it feels, and I love that. Martin Landau, you said it is incredible. It's just a movie I love a lot. I was hoping you wouldn't take it. I was hoping that you would take one of these other ones that I also have.
Got some good alternates, though.
Yeah, I've got some good alternates.
Some great.
But you did, and it's fine because it's you. I'm gonna let this slide.
That's my revenge for you need to watch more movies.
I said more Peter Weir movies. I didn't say more movies.
That's a trigger. Andrew, what do you think as the Burton rep here? Do you like Ed Wood?
Yeah, I like Ed Wood a good bit. I think it has my number 5 from him, but still like one of his better ones. I really liked learning about Ed Wood through this movie because I hadn't seen Plan 9 from Outer. What was that was called? Something like
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
From Outer Space, yeah. I hadn't seen like that movie or really known anything about him, but like kind of like this this famous like director of bad low budget movies. Like it was kind of interesting story, but the character in general of Ed Wood is more than just that. Like the like I don't know, Tim Burton tackles like like his sexuality and things within it, which is really interesting, which like none of his other movies tackle anything quite like that. Another interesting thing about this movie, it's one of the few movies that was not scored by Danny Elfman from Tim Burton. It was actually from Howard Shore. So that's a fun fact about this movie. So I don't know. Yeah, Ed Wood is a good movie. You guys said all the other good stuff about it, but
Awesome. Yeah. Chad,
if you guys haven't seen, sorry, just real quick, if you guys haven't seen Ed Wood or haven't seen Plan 9 from Outer Space, go watch both of them and then go watch our episode of Framewreck where we cover Plan 9 from Outer Space.
There you go. Chad, any thoughts on Ed Wood?
Yeah, Ed Wood's a really great one. I mirror the sentiments that I think Andrew said, or maybe it was Matt, that was about how it feels like a Tim Burton, but it also doesn't. And it's one of those where, because like he's normally like so, I think, out there, that Ed Wood feels more reined in some ways, and then also not, because of who the character is and and stuff. But yeah, it feels like one of the more conventional one. It feels like David Lynch making The Elephant Man, like more conventional but still a little weird, kind of a deal. But yeah, I really love it. I think Johnny Depp is great in it. Martin Landau and I think Juliette Landau from Buffy is in this as well for briefly, which I love that that cameo. So of course, so yeah, great movie.
Awesome. JD, any thoughts?
Oh yeah. As a fellow lover of bad movies, like, I mean, Ed Wood is kind of like, that name, like that name, and Plan 9 from Outer Space, and like, I agree, it is in some ways very Tim Burton-y, in other ways it is more conventional, but it is also it's still very much a Tim Burton though, because it's like it's about an outsider who finds his community, and I still think about that last shot, or the premiere of it ends with Plan 9 of Outer Space, and it doesn't really matter if it's successful or not, because he got to make his movie, and that in the end is the success of Ed Wood. He has his community, he has his people, and that is very Tim Burton-y. Like, and what I agree. Go see Plan 9 from Outer Space after it, because it is one of the most ridiculous things you'll ever see. And it's all you can hear Ed Wood for most of it saying the lines as other people are saying the lines, and it's just like so fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's great.
This film, we talk about how it kind of feels like Tim Burton, but also feels not like it doesn't completely feel like Tim Burton. And I think that's probably because like, I think it feels like Tim Burton is paying reverence to like a hero, like someone he truly admires, which I think is what we're feeling there. Cause it's almost like he respects this character so much, like that's like he's almost mimicking some of the styles, is kind of why it feels that way. So yeah, that's what
there we go. All right, for the wraparound, like I said, I had two different movies in mind, and now I've kind of abandoned that. I'm going to go for a different Musker and Clemens than I was going to, only because I thought Chad would take it before me, because I know he loves this one. And this isn't to spite Chad. This is more just because it's available, and I want to pick it, because it is my personal favorite Musker and Clemens after Aladdin, which is the one Nerd picked, which is The Little Mermaid. I think it is absolutely gorgeous visually. I think it has some of the best songs in the Disney canon, Under the Sea in particular being an absolute banger, Part of Your World being the best, in my opinion, the best I Want song, pretty much tied with Go the Distance. Like let's say it's a tie. I don't mean to cause any more controversy here, but yeah, it's so good. And it's just one of those great kind of coming of age movies. I think remaking it with a black protagonist was a really interesting move, considering this is all about race essentially, about this star-crossed romance where you can't love him because he's from here, he can't love you because you're from this world, why not? And I love how this kind of explores that. Ursula's an iconic villain. There's really not much else to say that hasn't been said already about Little Mermaid, and we're in the last few rounds, so we got to speed it up, but I love it so much. JD, any thoughts as the Musker Clements rep here on Little Mermaid?
So this is arguably this is arguably in most people's mind their best film.
Yeah, or at least most important. What it did for Disney too.
Yeah. It is definitely, this is what you have, this, and you have Beauty and the Beast and this back to back. That saves the studio. That saves the studio from, they were like, I can't say like something else, but there was a movie there was a movie that these people were a part of that was almost like they were thinking like if that wasn't successful, they were going to shut it all down.
Yeah.
And it's funny for me personally, like when I was a kid, I did not care about this movie at all. I was a dumb 7-year-old, like a 5-year-old kid who's like, oh, it's the Disney princesses. It is, it has obviously grown in aberration over time as I've grown older and kind of gotten over all that and gotten over kind of that ridiculous kid, stupid, logic that you have. But as a result, that's why it's probably lower for me than some of the others, because it wasn't, when it hit, it wasn't as big for me then as it is, as I appreciate it now. But it's still a great movie, and it is still, anyone who thinks that is the best Disney film, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, it's a staple. Anyone else thoughts on Little Mermaid?
I have.
Matt.
All right, friends. I'm 39. But seriously, which means that I was 5 when this movie came out. I was target audience for this movie, and I love this film. I grew up with it. It stayed with me all this time. I will say that there's some parts of it that, and this is just kind of weird, but that like don't hit for me anymore, and it's because, and it's not anything the movie does wrong. Things like that, kiss the girl is a little it does eschew consent occasionally within that song, and I don't love that when I'm singing it with my kids, and that's just me overthinking it, I think. But it's the does she want you to kiss her? There's only one way to ask her, implying that you should kiss her to find out if she wants to kiss you, which is not okay, kids. Anyway, it's not the point. Outside of that, I really love this film. I think Ursula is one of the best Disney villains of all time. She's so great. I think that I agree that Part of Your World is one of the best. I will give you top 3. Okay,
there you go,
Dylan. We can agree on top 3.
Right. Yeah. I'll also say along the Kiss a Girl lines, though, I agree. If on its own, if you're just like singing it around the house, I agree. Some of the messaging is a little weird. Like, you shouldn't just be singing the words. Oh, only one way to ask her is to do it. But I think in the context of the movie, though, the fact that she's lost her voice and the whole thing is that she can't tell him, and Sebastian is almost communicating for her. I feel like it's kind of an unspoken thing that in the context of the movie, she clearly wants him to kiss her, and it's them trying to help her do that. That's at least how I read into it, but I don't know.
I'm overthinking. I think you're right. I think that it's not. I don't think they were being untoward with it. It's just there is a consent issue within that song that I feel the need to explain to my children.
For sure.
Yeah.
I also just want to say real quick, with Ursula, "Poor Unfortunate Souls" is a top 5 Disney villain song.
Yeah, I agree.
Top one, maybe. I think it might be the best. It might be.
No, not for
Okay,
me.
okay. Sorry.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely it's
It's
top
up there.
5.
One of the most iconic for sure.
It's
It's definitely one of the most
Oh,
iconic.
I forgot Lion King exists. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's probably my number 2 then.
I was going to
That's what I'm
say,
saying. That's what
Be
I'm saying.
Prepared is number 1.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
That's okay. That's fair.
Be
That's fair.
prepared. Definitely number 1 for me. But yeah, I'll grant you it's up there.
Gotcha. Andrew, any thoughts?
So I am 34, so I was 3 months old when this movie.
And again,
released.
33. So keep in mind.
So this was in my birth year.
Oh, nice.
So this is my birth year movie. We were talking about that earlier. So
Right.
Little Mermaid has always kind of been in my life, like much of the Disney Renaissance. So I was born at the beginning of the Disney Renaissance, I like to say.
You were
so
one
that's
with
kind
the
of fun.
Disney Renaissance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love all the animated bubbles and the under the sea sequence, and like I know Kiss the Girls is probably problematic, but it's still one of my favorite songs, and it's probably my favorite song in the movie just because just the way the scene plays out and the like musically the song plays really well for me. I just get that stuck in my head whenever it plays. So yeah, that's my Little Mermaid stuff.
Yep. Chad, any thoughts? That
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think all the music's pretty great. I want just one of the best soundtracks. I definitely started the Disney Renaissance and just like made it like I don't know, like one of the best eras of animation. I think. But yeah, I just love the iconic shot of just her like on the rock with the water splashing and stuff. Like that's just like one of my favorite shots in like any like animated film. Yeah, it's just a really sweet story. I need to watch the remake soon.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to pick 2, Matt. You still have what do you have left? You have your Burton and you have your Feig. What would you like? Feig. Sorry.
Come on. No. I am.
Matt's angry at me today. I don't know.
No,
why.
I'm not angry. I love. Listen, I love Dylan. The watched movies. I did not mean for that to be a trigger.
It's okay.
I was just joking.
It's okay.
I was playing around.
It's okay. I'm gonna get stuck with whatever's left at the end anyway for that. So it's like even if I had seen more Peter Weir movies, the chances are Nerd and JD will pick, or Nerd and oh, I guess it's just Nerd. We'll pick it before me, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with my Burton. I was actually gonna go with a different one, but now that obviously I was going to go with Ed Wood, but I have one written above this other one that I probably like more, but I feel like I need to represent Stephen Sondheim a little bit. So I'm gonna go with Sweeney Todd the Demon Bar.
Darn.
Dang it.
I am not shocked because it's a great movie. I like it, but I am shocked you didn't go with a specific one. We'll talk about it at the end. But
there's another one that I
We
really,
were all
really like.
gonna pick that apparently at the top here.
what was that? Sorry, Chad?
We were at the top. We all went, dang it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds like we all were going to pick that one.
Well, I was just surprised that was the one that
Yeah.
We're like,
Okay.
not Nerd because he started the trend.
Yeah. So, I remember I saw this in the theater with a bunch of friends. We actually went to a different city to go watch it because it wasn't playing in our little town. But we all went and saw this together. I hadn't seen the play yet at that point. I wasn't as into Sondheim yet when I saw this. I would later become very into Sondheim. But I just fell in love with this movie. I think this is about as perfect an adaptation as you can get from that story into a movie, or from that play into that musical into a movie. I don't think it's a perfect adaptation. I think it's about as good as you can do into a movie. And I feel like because like the Burtoniness feels at home with this story, even if like the play isn't surprisingly as dark as he makes it. Like there is there is it does feel at home in this case. Yes, he cut the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, which is unfortunate. And Anthony Head, who plays Giles on Buffy, was going to be part of that ensemble who sang that song, and that's unfortunate. That's why he's in it for 1 second when he's like, "Hello, I would like to come for a shave," and then you never see him again. It's because he was supposed to be part of the ensemble. It was going to be like a bunch of his victims narrating the movie, almost like as the ensemble. Not really narrating it, but that's why they were going to sing the Ballad of Sweeney Todd. Anyway, not the point. Yeah, it sucks, but I think that this movie comes as close as you can get to making a great adaptation of Sweeney Todd for a movie. And yeah, I really love it. I think it's perfectly cast. I think everybody in it is really great. I think that they do justice to the songs. I just really like this movie.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick. I think I'm probably the least fan of it of the five. I like it, but I just think because Matt, you and I have talked at length about Sondheim just off air, but like I just am such a Sondheim fan that the first time I saw this, I really liked it because I hadn't seen the Sondheim show. I hadn't read it, researched it, but I think since kind of like exploring that a little bit, like little things do bother me more than they should, and the prime example is the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, the best musical opener ever. I mean, I'm not even going to debate it with anyone. I think it's the best musical opener ever, and you just don't even include it like that. And they didn't even make it a big like score moment either. And that for me is the one where I'm like, how? But I think everything else is like really, really good. So I'll give you that. I think it's really well cast too. I was hesitant about the Johnny Depp casting on rewatch, but I think it works as a very different version of Sweeney, very different version from anything else
right
of Sweeney's. Whereas I think Helena Bonham Carter is a little bit more of the stereotypical love it. I think Johnny Depp's very different from other Sweeneys, but
yeah.
I think they're really good. I love the kid who plays Toby. I don't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but
Tobias or Toby. That's Vecna.
Yes. Oh no. That's
Anthony.
Toby's the kid.
Toby's kid. Anthony is played by.
That's another thing too. I don't find him very good either, the Anthony. But I find him okay. But it's just for some reason that one storyline, Anthony and Joanna, just doesn't. I think it's also because you have Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter as the other two that pops more than them. And in the musical, I'm just so drawn to their story even more so than Sweeney and Lovett at times. But again, it's like my own stubborn theater brain getting in the way of liking it more. I think stylistically though, like as Matt said, this is the best version you could possibly do in adapting it to screen. And the fact they were able to adapt it at all, because Sondheim is a very tricky person to adapt because his musicals aren't as, there's not a lot of like song and dance numbers. It's not easy to kind of like make a spectacle of like look at Company. But I think that is a very successful as you can get for an adaptation of Sondheim. I think it's really, really good and good gore. I mean, Alan Rickman too is so good. So
oh yes, Alan Rickman as Judge Sherbert is so good. I will say about Anthony and Joanna. I can see what you're saying. I think that part is translated better on stage than it is necessarily in this movie. I will say that Johnny Depp and Vecna, I don't remember the actor's name.
I'm not that name.
Their rendition
Jamie Campbell Bower.
Jamie Campbell Bower. Johnny Depp and Jamie Campbell Bower's rendition of Joanna in that movie is beautiful. It's really good. It's so good. Mm-hmm. It's so good. But yeah. All right. That's all.
JD, your hand's raised. What's up, JD?
Oh yeah, I did. So yeah, fun. So there are multiple different phases in like my movie journey. Sweeney Todd definitely kind of falls into that. Like, I think that little side tangent here. When I went to go see Sweeney Todd, I actually was in Maui. And there was only one theater that showed it. And when you go to Maui, everything was spread out. So there are not a lot of roads and a lot of things. So it takes 30, 45 minutes to get there. So I made it when I saw the trailer for Sweeney Todd, I was I made it had my parents drop me off go to a movie theater in Maui, and when I saw that movie, I just remember I'm just reminded that like, oh yeah, musicals can be more than just what Disney teaches you. Like they can be a whole wide of different stories that can be told with musicals. And that movie is also my introduction to Stephen Sondheim. That was the first any kind of Stephen Sondheim thing I ever saw. And as a huge fan of it, said going into it later, I can see why Dill doesn't like it as much, but like for me is like who's again wasn't as versed at musicals in that time, to me that was like an epiphany of like what musicals can be.
Right.
And that's it. That's fine.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm waiting for anyone else.
I can open it for everybody else.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think this may be my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Wow.
It's up there for me, yeah.
I was surprised as well when I rewatched this because I saw this back when I worked at a movie theater that has since closed, which I'm very sad about. But yeah, I saw this back when it came out, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, I forgot how good this is. And I don't come from a place where I've seen the stage musical, so I don't know what I'm missing. But honestly, like, because I like this movie so much, I just don't think anything that they left out it really needed. But I am interested to go and try to check out the stage musical if I can, like online or something like that at some point.
There's a filmed version of the original, I think, with Angela Lansbury and
yes, there
what's
is.
his name? What's his name?
I own it. I'll put it on. I'll put it on Plex.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think Johnny Depp is just great. I love all the imagery that Tim Burton brings, like the by the sea.
That is the best moment of that whole movie. I love them.
They're just like sitting there on the
great.
beach in their like Tim Burton kind of clothes and stuff like that. The Helena Bonham Carter is amazing in this as Miss Lovett, and I love Toby the little kid. I love all of his stuff. Like what is the song?
Not While I'm Around.
No.
The Miss
Pirelli's Miracle Elixir.
Yeah.
Like I would just sit there sing that all the time after watching this movie, and I just love it so much. That
reminds me, Sacha Baron Cohen as Pirelli is perfect casting.
Yeah,
I agree. You did remind me just now after talking about that how great that song is. Reminded me that God That's Good is not in the thing, but they do a motif for it.
Yeah, George Hearn. Thank you, JD, for that. Yeah. No, that's a good one. Nerd.
So this, I was mostly surprised because I had a certain prediction about what the top four, like what I thought would be the top four for sure, and then 5 was like a wheel between maybe 4 other movies. Sweeney Todd was not one of the ones I thought would be in the top 5. It is lowered on my ranks of Tim Burton for me. Not, it's a good movie, but I just don't have a lot of connection to the musical or as much. I think Helena Bonham Carter is the best thing in this movie. Alan Rickman is the best part of this movie, but that's just that's not really fair. Helena Bonham Carter is doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. So I mean, it seems like it's a good adaptation, but I don't really have a good reference point. I think the thing that got me was that Johnny Depp's talk singing, and maybe that's how the stage musical performs too, is he was felt a little bit, even though he played Sweeney Todd well, the singing parts I feel like maybe he was a little bit miscast.
They also had to raise the keys for him because it's a real bass role in the musical. But yeah, it's interesting. My reaction of the surprise is not because I don't like it. It's because I thought for sure Matt was going to go with a certain pick and Chad was going to go.
I will explain why I didn't go with
knowing who Matt is and knowing who Chad is, I was just convinced that their number ones were something else. But knowing that that's both your number one burden is awesome. Or number one left, Matt, I should say, because I know Edward's your number one. But Chad, you're gonna get to pick next. You still have a Burton and a Musker Clemens left to pick.
Yeah, okay. I'll go with my Burton now. I was between the one that I'm gonna pick and Sweeney Todd. And now that Sweeney Todd is gone, I'll go with this other one. I have a lot that are like towards the top of Burton because I also love Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that. So that was obviously like a clear number one. I totally get that. And then Sweeney Todd is amazing. But I'm gonna go with, rest in peace, Paul Rubens, Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, nice.
You guys are surprising me today. That's not a reaction against the film. I wrote down what Matt was gonna pick, crossed it out for Sweeney Todd, and I wrote down what you were gonna pick and crossed it out for this. I just great. I've never seen it, so I don't know if I like the movie or not. But like, awesome. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I think you should check it out at some point because it's pretty great. I love Pee Wee Herman just as a character. I love Paul Rubens was just a great actor. Even in Mystery Man, a film I love. But yeah, this one is just incredible. Like I also love just Pee Wee's Playhouse. I just recently bought the DVDs for that to show to my son because I just think it's a really, really silly, cute show. Like I want to get him into stuff that's like really deep, like Mr. Rogers and stuff like that, but then also like silly shit like Pee-wee, because I'm a very silly person, and I think that's probably why I really like this because it's essentially just an adventure film, and just iconic lines, there's no basement in the Alamo, and just it's just a very silly movie. Like he's just going around saying a lot of the iconic Pee-wee lines, and I know you are, but what am I? Kind of stuff. And it's, I don't know. It's one of those things to where it's also one that doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie, but then it does. Like it's because it's so weird and out there. And I really love this one quite a bit. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure is great.
Large Marge is very scary.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
There you go, Matt.
I'm a loner, Dottie, a rebel. I think this is a great pick. It's a good movie. It's really great. That's really all I have to say. I think it's a great pick. It's a great pick, and it's kind of under the radar. So I really dig it.
JD. Oh no.
No. I like this movie. It's
the deep inhale, exhale.
It's hard to hate this movie. It's so sweet.
I like this movie. I think I came to this movie very late. I knew who Pee Wee Herman was. I've seen Pee Wee's Playhouse. I love Paul Rubin as an actor. I think he's very underrated as an actor and a comedian. So this was always built up in my mind as a result. Like it was hyped for me. It's like this is like Paul Rubin, Pee Wee Herman's like this is like the Pee Wee Herman, piece of thing you need to see, and it's of all time. And I watched it, and I'm like, okay, I like it. I don't think it's as good as it was hyped up to be for me. And I also think, personally, I find, I think he does a better, Paul Rubens does a better balance in Pee-wee's Playhouse with his Pee-wee character. There are times in this movie where Pee-wee is very, very, very cold and very jerky. And I feel I preferred when Pee Wee Herman is like silly and childish. And I feel like there are some times where that kind of is that I find them there are line deliveries and certain things that are like came off to me as very, very jerky, and at times that was hard for me to root for Pee Wee Herman, and all I want to do is root for Pee Wee Herman. And
What you mean.
so again, overall, I think it's a good movie. Again, I think it's a case of where it was
Right.
overhyped for me at the time,
There you
and
go.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to check it out. I've never seen it, so I'm looking forward to it. All right, nerd, you're up next, and you have a Flanagan left and a Peter Weir left. What would you like to say?
Sweet. All right. So I'm actually very pleased to have this left for my Peter Weir pick. Um, Witness is a damn good movie, guys.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, like, you should watch it if you haven't seen it.
As
And
we all
those
know,
who've
I have
seen
not.
it, know what I'm talking about. It's I don't even know where to start with it, but like, first of all, Harrison Ford, it might be one of his best performances. That sounds crazy when you think of like, Han Solo and Indiana Jones and things like that, but like actually like testing his acting chops beyond like adventure, kind of like those action type roles. Um, him being this kind of like outsider going into Amish like society and sort of investigating this crime that happened and getting caught in the middle of like the whole thing, and then winds up falling in love with like the community and this culture clash. I love all those things come together. Um, the romance is pretty good in it too. The scene at the beginning that kind of gets it all kickstarted, the kid that's the witness, is like a chilling scene because it's like this pretty brutal scene, and the and then you're definitely fearing for the kid for that chunk in the beginning. So, because that's not going to be good for whoever witnessed that. So yeah, I think it's a movie that works really well on its thriller aspects, crime thriller aspects, I guess, and just also like somebody getting in touch with a different community and us as audience members learning more about like those differences, and I always like those movies. So Witness is my pick.
Nice. Matt, you were the one who brought Peter Weir to the draft. What do you think of Witness?
I did bring Peter Weir to the draft. I love Witness. I agree. One of Harrison Ford's best roles. Harrison Ford is a great pointer, and you get a really great Harrison Ford point in this movie also, just for those keeping track of the Harrison Ford point. And you should. Also, this is completely off topic, but his son in Star Wars, his fictional son, also is a really great pointer, which I thought was a nice touch. I don't know if it's on purpose, but he definitely points a lot, and I like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Nerd said most of the great things about this. That opening scene, harrowing. Danny Glover is like the bad guy, like is really interesting too. Like I think, isn't that who plays the bad guy?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Yes, it is. I just looked it up. It is. Kelly McGillis. I think this is her best role as well. I think Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis give incredible performances. I think really everybody does. It's just a really great film. Viggo Mortensen in one of his very early roles, maybe his first, I don't know, is in it. It's Dylan. You need to watch this movie. It's very good.
I know.
I'm not dunking on you. I'm just saying I think you will like this movie. I am very interested in hearing your opinion on it once you watch it.
Nice. All right. Any other thoughts on Witness?
Really, really great movie. Yeah.
Cool. Diddy, anything?
Yeah, good movie.
Awesome. Keeping it along. Round 4s and 5. It's gonna go a little faster as we get to the end of it. All right, JD, you get to round out your draft now. You have to take a Burton and a Paul Feig. It just doesn't matter which order, but
Yeah,
what does on the graphic?
My plans were ruined by Matt. Like I thought, Sweeney Todd's my number one, my number one burden movie, just in general, but also like I thought it would be a great counterpoint to Mike Clemens' first round pick to end off with. So it is what it is. As a result, I think I'm going to go for a different Paul Feig than what I was going to do, and a different burden, obviously. So I'll start with my Feig pick. I'm going to go for the School of Good and Evil, the
Nice.
Netflix movie. I think, I was kind of surprised by it. It looked very generic, and I kind of like it was a Netflix movie that took me kind of by surprise. For people who haven't seen it, like there's these two childhood friends who discover that like fairy tales are real, and people get recruited to be like the next fairy tales, and there's a good school and a bad school, and they get it's a great on some levels it's said it's never judge a book by its cover kind of thing, but also Charlize Theron is having a really fun time. Kerry Washington also having a blast. Michelle Yeoh too. Like it's there's a lot of flavor to that Paul Feig adds to it that I kind of really like. So that's my pick.
Has anyone else seen this one? I know it's just came out a few months
It's
ago.
gonna be real fast. Haven't seen it.
Cool. Anyone else? No?
I haven't seen it.
Cool. Yeah, I actually haven't seen it in its entirety. I've watched a few scenes. I just didn't have time to watch it all the way through. But what I saw, I liked. This is actually a fun tidbit. 2 connections to Burton from this movie, to a movie we've already talked about, Sweeney Todd. Patti LuPone, who played Miss Lovett in the revival, is in this film. And Sophia Ann Caruso, who played the lead of a musical based on Tim Burton, which I won't reveal in case that movie gets picked, is the lead of this film. So that's a pretty fun little
Patti
connection.
LuPone is in Witness.
Oh my
She
god!
is, yes.
Okay, I'm watching it as soon as I can because you should have told me that 5 years ago. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Patti LuPone is amazing. She needs an Oscar this year for Beau is Afraid. Make it happen. Don't forget Academy. All right, JD, move on. She needs one. She's so good. She just got the Tony last year. Give her an Oscar. All right, JD. What is going to be your Tim Burton pick?
I'm going to choose film that's kind of an underwatched film of Burton's that I know is near and dear, not just to my heart, but also friend of the channel, Stacey Morris's heart. Big Fish.
Big Fish. I knew it was going to be one of the bigs, either Big Fish or the other big. So
yeah, Big Fish. I mean, like it has Obi-Wan from Star Wars. When I like Star Wars episode the prequels, as a young kid, that's all I needed to hear to go see that movie. But like as an adult, I'm like seeing it again as an adult. I'm kind of surprised. It's like it's very much like about a man who is nearing the end of his life and is trying to kind of expound upon his sons the life lessons that he's learned over the years and the journeys that he's had, and how just because your life is not, you may have fibbed about some of the extravagance of your life, doesn't mean your life the real thing wasn't any less spectacular than what it is. And I always cry. Yeah, great. Albert Finney plays old Edward Bloom. He's so great as like the old grandpa. Like when he learns he's going to be a grandpa, and then like he's telling the story to like Melon Cotillard's plays the wife to like the son in one of like her first American roles. Like I always tear like he's so lovable, and I always tear at the end at the funeral when it's like you see all the characters from the stories that he was telling throughout the film, and they're real. He may have lied about like what they were, may have like extrapolated the details, but they were all real. And I cry when they all show up at the funeral. It's one of those more Tim Burton, it's one of his more sentimental movies for him.
Mhm.
It is oddly for Tim Burton. It is a very sentimental film.
Yeah, I'd say it's the most probably. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good pick. I saw this once over the pandemic, and honestly, I liked it at the time, but I can't remember it well enough to. I need to rewatch it again, so I won't add too much commentary. But great musical they made of that movie too. The one I
Yes.
was referring to in the last pick is Beetlejuice, obviously, which got unpicked. Sophia Ann Caruso, the lead of Beetlejuice on Broadway, was. She played Lydia in Beetlejuice on Broadway. She was in The School for Good and Evil with Paul Feig, so that was my connection I was making. But nerd,
What's
you're the
Broadway?
what's Broadway?
I'm just kidding.
It's the West End of New York. Nerd,
Oh,
any
okay.
thoughts on Tim Burton's Big Fish?
This was a. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know you said. I didn't say no.
No,
I, didn't
I
know
said
who was
nerd, but
supposed
it's
to.
okay. Matt, you're
Oh,
also
I
a
didn't
nerd.
hear
You
that.
can- You can do it. No,
Excuse me. No, I'm just kidding.
we're all
Go
nerds.
ahead. Go ahead. Go
We're
ahead,
nerds.
Andrew.
But he's the
Oh.
commentating nerd, so he gets to talk first because he picked Burton. So I'm going to give you the floor first.
All right.
That makes
Well, I'll
sense.
go first. Big Fish. I do love Big Fish. It's actually my second favorite Tim Burton movie.
Wow, nice.
I love the production design of it and like the difference between like him basically telling the stories and how it looks completely different from just like them in the I don't know present day, I guess, with them in the house, like you know the dad on his deathbed, which is kind of whatever, but it's like a completely different thing, and just Ewan McGregor throughout the entire section of like the stories from his tall tales, if you will. I just love it, and I love how they all kind of loop back in at the end. The stories that, even though it's pretty clear that like most of those stories couldn't be really very true, there's a little bit of truth to maybe each one of them, and that's kind of cool. So I just like how this movie works.
Yeah.
And hits you in the feels. So that's better than most Tim Burton movies do, because oftentimes he kind of avoids that. Other than like Edward Scissorhands, you get there, but like some of his other movies, he doesn't really get to that emotional
Mhm.
like center like that he does in this movie. So I think it stands apart from his other ones.
Cool. Nerd. Or Matt, sorry. Now I'm
No. This is actually also my second favorite Tim Burton movie. After Ed Wood, it's Big Fish. I actually just, when I said that I was jumping over my second pick to go to my next one for Sweeney Todd, that was what I jumped over.
So it wasn't even the one I crossed out, which we can say
no,
now because all the
which
Burtons
you
have been picked.
all right.
I thought you were going to go
think,
Batman because
of course you
you.
would think that, but I feel like I've mentioned this before, is that I don't care for Burton's version of Batman.
Oh, I don't. You must have mentioned that when we did Batman and Robin, but it must have gone over.
Yeah, I've never really cared for it. I have grown to love it in recent years, just as a fun, silly Batman thing. I just don't think he gets Batman, and so like as a Batman fan, it doesn't work for me quite as well. But I do love those movies. They're just not high on my list.
Sure. But Big Fish.
So Big Fish. I saw this in the theater. I love stories about telling stories. And this movie is about telling stories. And I really love that. I like, I think JD and Nerd have both said like those things couldn't have happened. I actually see it a different way, where I feel like they did. I feel like there's a possibility that he was telling the truth.
No, I think he did. I said it did happen. It didn't happen exactly the way it did. He exaggerated a bit, but I was saying no, it definitely did. They were real. They did happen.
So there's a spectrum here. Yeah.
You both That, I guess that's really what it makes sense. But both basically said there's some aspect of it, but he exaggerated. I think that, I don't know, but I think that the movie leaves open the possibility that it's all true. Like, and I love that about it.
Fullest.
Yeah, like it could be, and I love that. I love that it doesn't. But yeah, I saw this in the theater. I absolutely loved it when I saw it in the theater, and I have a complicated relationship with my father, so there's parts of this that really hit for me. reconciliation scenes between father and son don't really do anything for me because I have not. I mean, I still talk to my dad, but it's not. I don't think I'll ever have that thing where I'm like, we come to terms. It's not going to happen. But there is something about a complicated relationship with a father that does speak to me. So I dig it on that level. Albert Finney and Billy Crudup have incredible chemistry as father and son. I think they're really great, that role. And it does make me cry. I think that this is a very good movie.
Chad, any thoughts on Big Fish and where you lie in the truth to fiction spectrum?
I don't really know. My opinions on that. It's probably I forget who said it. Like a little bit of truth in there.
JD,
but
the middle, some exaggeration.
Yeah. I mean, I like this movie fine. I think it's more of like, I don't think it's top tier Burton. I think it's more middle of the pack. It's definitely not lower end. Like it's still a good movie. I do like Ewan McGregor in it. That's probably most. Who plays his love interest?
Oh, the girl from what's her name?
Jessica Lange?
No, the
She's like the older version, yeah.
Oh yeah, Jessica Lange's the younger version, but right?
No, Jessica Lange's older.
Hold on.
The girl from freaking what's her? Oh my god,
Helena
Alison
Bonham Carter?
Lohman?
No, Alison Lohman.
Alison Lohman. Yes,
Drag Me to Hell.
From Drag Me to Hell.
That's
Yes.
right.
Right.
That's what I was
why
trying to remember.
I was trying to remember her because I do love that movie too. And yeah, this also has a little baby Miley Cyrus cameo. So there you go.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
By the way,
Yeah.
Helena Bonham Carter played Jenny, which was the person
Yeah.
who was
Right.
Robin Wright plays Jenny.
who had the crush on Edward.
That's right. All right. So moving on now to pick two. Nerd, what's going to be your Flanagan pick here for the draft?
Oh right.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I still have
This one.
one more pick to go.
Is there one left that you have seen, or are you chalk picking?
No, I'm gonna do my best. So Oculus looks like the most interesting Mike
That's the
Flanagan
next
movie.
best
That's
one.
left.
Yeah.
I do love Karen Gillan, so at least there's that. So I probably would have picked this one if I'd seen it before this, just because I'm a big fan of hers from Doctor Who, and then obviously Nebula and stuff. But like, I think she's a really good actress. She's really good at sci-fi and horror as well. This concept of basically like haunted mirror, like it's a really cool horror concept. Not only can you do like the weird reflection stuff with mirrors, and countless other horror movies have done it too, but this one also has like this demonic possession almost like aspect to it, or like they kind of make you hallucinate things, not necessarily just like in the mirror, but I don't know, I guess see things that aren't there. So that's kind of an interesting thing to it. So I don't know. Let's throw Oculus for Mike Flanagan.
This is the other one I've seen, and I think it's good. I actually saw it. I haven't seen it since high school, and I watched it with my girlfriend at the time, and so I didn't watch half of it. So I need to watch. I need to rewatch. Yeah. Half of it I spent cowering under the blanket because I was a scaredy cat.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh wait, did you think?
Yeah.
Guys. I'm kidding. No, it's what you thought. But yeah, I need to revisit. Chad, you're the Flanagan expert. Is this a good one?
Yeah, I really like Oculus. This was maybe like my second Flanagan film that I saw, or third. Maybe Hush was the second one. But yeah, this one is interesting because it's a haunted mirror movie basically, but it's like not one where you're just gonna get like a bunch of cheap jump scares based on the mirror, which I feel like any generic director would have done that. But I think Mike Flanagan does a lot of brilliant stuff because he makes it be filled more with like dread, and the dread of what the mirror could do and what could happen. He has a lot of really great atmosphere in the movie. And it's another Henry Thomas movie, I think, right? Or no, is he not in it? I think he is.
I take back what I said. I just realized now I'm thinking of a different movie.
You're trying
I-
thinking
Oh.
of the mirrors.
No, so I was looking. I was like, wait, I thought I could swear Kiefer Sutherland was in this movie, and I'm looking
Mirrors,
through, and
yeah.
I'm like, he's not. And then I realized, and now I have this core memory that's coming back. Where at the time, my ex-girlfriend said that she wanted to watch this movie that she heard about a mirror, but she didn't remember the name of it. So I said, oh, well, let's search mirrors. And we searched it. She goes, this is horror. It just came out. Yeah, I think this is it. We watched it. It was so bad that we didn't watch that last half. And then afterwards, I was like, well, that wasn't the movie, right? She goes, it couldn't have been. So we were looking on Google trying to find it, and then we found Oculus. And she's like, this is the one. I was like, great. And we did watch that one, and it was great. So
I
yeah.
I lied. It wasn't Henry Thomas wasn't in it, but Katie Sackhoff is in it. Kate Siegel's in it, and Rory Cochrane is in it.
Yeah, but not Kiefer Sutherland. That's not it.
No.
So I have seen this one in its entirety with my entire eyeballs. JD, have you seen this one?
No, I have not.
All right, Matt, have you seen this one?
I have. This is the one I didn't want to get stuck with.
Okay.
And I'm looking at Letterboxd right now. I gave it 3.5 stars. So it could have been that bad of an experience. I just remember feeling I don't remember my exact criticisms of it, but I felt like it was a lot, and I felt like everything didn't connect for me the way I wanted it to, and there were some things that just didn't feel right. Like it just didn't feel like everything was working out like complete, and that it was.
Are you sure you didn't watch Mirrors?
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. I saw that one back in 2004, 6 or whatever year that came out. Like, yeah, and it was bad. But I gave it 3.5 stars. I should rewatch it, but I just know that I did not enjoy my time with it the whole time. But I liked it enough to give it 3.5 stars. So what do you know? Yeah.
Watch Mirrors first. I promise you'll like them more. All right, Chad, what's going to be your Musker Clements to round out the draft?
All right.
Still got 2 picks after.
Yeah. Well, this is my last pick.
Right. Yeah. I said round out the draft. I got a little
gotcha.
overzealous.
Yeah. There's a couple picks left. And all 3 of them, none of them that I adore, but I'm gonna pick the one that I think is maybe the most unique out of all 3, because I know there's one that like a lot of people who are like slightly younger than me, like, try to champion and stuff like that. Dylan knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go with that one because I don't super love it on that level. I'm going to go with The Princess and the Frog.
Oh, that's the one I thought you were just referencing. Oh, so you were talking about Treasure Planet.
He's referencing Treasure Planet.
Gotcha.
Treasure Planet. I love Treasure Planet. I'm older than you.
Yeah, Treasure Planet.
I'll just tell you now, Chad. You could have had Little Mermaid if you let me have Master and Commander. That's all.
That's okay. No, I'm actually really okay with choosing The Princess and the Frog. I did put it at number 40. And the reason why is because I was so excited to watch, because I didn't see it when it first came out. I was so excited to watch the movie that has like a really great representation, because we on my channel did a ranking of all 61 animated films, and watching throughout a lot of these, there's just so much racism throughout like the whole like half of it that I was just like, holy crap. Can we get to the progressive ones already? And I finally got to The Princess and the Frog, and I was very excited. And then I was like, okay, cool, great representation. And it does have that, because there's a lot of really great music and voice acting and stuff that I think is really legit. And I really love a lot of the songs and stuff. But they like halfway through the film, or maybe not even as like towards the beginning, like they turn Tiana into a frog. And then I'm like, so we don't get to see the representation. You turn her into a frog instead for like most of the movie. Like, I don't know. I'm like, did that have to be the story?
Yeah, like, let's tell a story about a strong black woman, and
right.
Make her not that anymore. Make her a frog.
Right.
It's the soul thing. Let's make him a cat. Yeah,
but
it's a trope by white filmmakers who direct black movies. But
so I almost want to see. Yeah, I would love to actually see, and I should have fought for this harder in the debate that I did, like a sequel to it, where she's running her own kitchen, and then have it be directed by a black filmmaker. I think that would be really cool, or something like that. Because justice for Princess Frog, but I do think it has a lot of great style, and I know Carrie really loved the what was the animal that loved to play the instrument?
Oh, the trumpet. It was the alligator, Louis.
Alligator.
Louis.
Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the style is the best part of it in terms of like the infusion of New Orleans jazz culture. I love that aspect.
Yeah.
I wish she got more time as Tiana, the princess. But it is what it is. It's a charming story. It's not my top tier, but it's a good one for sure. Any thoughts on Princess and the Frog? Anyone?
Yeah.
I have a similar. Oh, sorry. Just mine's real quick. I have a similar situation to Dylan's Mirrors situation, which was this came out shortly before my wife and I started dating. So I didn't watch all of it, I don't think.
Gotcha.
I can tell you that at the time, and still, I'm pissed that they make black people be animals and everything, and they did that in this. So there's that.
Yeah, you, as Mama Odie would say, dug a little deeper that day. All right, JD. Sorry to reference one of the songs.
So I don't think there's a bad Clemens and Musker's movie at all. I do, as Chad said, if you go through the history of Disney, I mean, Horny Donald. There's a lot of really yes.
Oh my God.
Freak out. I'm always like, watch Free Caballeros, and you can't tell me that's a good movie. Because...
Donald trying to rip off a woman in live action owl is one of the most jarring images.
There's definitely a lot worse movies Disney movies out there, including one that they don't want to admit exists, even though for many years they had a ride that was based on it. Regardless, what I was going to say is I like this movie a lot. I understand the problems people have with this movie because, yes, if you think about it too hard, you turn a strong black woman played by a strong black female actress into a frog 20 minutes in, and then also you have a really weird subplot with a southern bug who is in love with the moon and wants to
let him love the moon.
Wants to pork the moon, and in the end he gets his thing at the end. He actually is rewarded. Yeah, there's a lot of things if you think about it, but I will say Keith David is the voodoo guy, best Disney villain in a while. And his song "Friends from the Other Side" is a great Disney song. And the songs in these movies, I will still say the songs for the most part in this movie are really good. Yeah. Like most of the
Randy Newman.
Yeah, Randy Newman. If you look at the songs, they're really good. I don't think there's a really bad Musker and Clemens movie.
This is a good movie. I think we already kind of said it. I don't love that she gets turned into a frog. I don't think the frog hijinks work. I think that's more it. It's less. I mean, yeah, I would like Tiana to be Tiana for longer, but I don't think the back and forth play of them both as frogs really works as well. I think their side characters work well in that sequence. Like Louis is great, and the Firefly in love with. I actually love the Firefly in love with the moon. I think that's one of the best parts of the movie, because that kind of stuff works. And I do like the jazz, like New Orleans culture, like infused in it. But there was just something, I don't know. There was some parts of the movie where it's like I just didn't feel like it worked as well, and I got checked out of different parts where I didn't care as much. So,
and one more thing before we move on: if you have not seen The Great Mouse Detective and Treasure Planet, you need to see both of those because they're both really good. And yeah, there is no bad. As
Those
said,
are
those
good
are both really underrated.
Especially
I'm
if
gonna
you want
s-
to introduce your kids to, like, if you're a parent introducing your kids to Sherlock Holmes or Treasure Planet,
Treasure
that's a
Island.
really cool, or Treasure Island. Sorry, yeah, that's a really cool way to segue them into classic literature, which is really smart.
I will say that I'm going to give this crazy qualifier here that Treasure Planet has the best original song not sung by characters that is not written by Phil Collins in any Disney movie.
Very, very specific. Very, very true.
Yes.
Who sings that? Is it the Goo Goo Dolls?
That's that's the guy from
It's
Goo Goo Dolls.
Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good. Oh, it's very of that era.
Trevor
I mean, how
Reznor.
they
Very
adapt-
Iris. Yeah.
How they adapt Treasure Island to be futuristic is really impressive.
Yeah.
Like it is one of the most impressive feats I've
There we
seen.
go. All right, we got 2 picks left. We got to speed it up. We're 56 minutes over. Let's get to Matt. What do you have left? You have Paul Feig. What do you got?
I have Paul Feig, and I'm pulling the ripcord here. Bridesmaids was taken. I don't feel strongly enough about the stuff that's left. So we're going Framewreck here. I am picking Last Christmas, starring Henry Golding, charming as hell. Oh God, did we lose? No.
It was a protest play.
Oh.
I was trying to.
Starring Henry Golding and I've forgotten her name suddenly.
Amelia Clark.
Amelia Clark. Thank you.
But you wouldn't think it's her because the Riz is going.
Here's the thing. 95% of this movie is just a bad rom-com. The very end, Reeve contextualizes the entire movie in a way that is so bonkers that I don't want to give it away to anybody.
This is wild.
I know
It's like if you watch the movie and you're like, why do people think this is so bad? It's mediocre. Then you get to the end and you're like, oh God. And it connects to things like I don't even want to say what it connects
it'll
to.
spoil it. And it's one of the most obvious.
There's so many
spoilers
like
if you just
Easter
think
eggs
about
within and without the movie that does it. I actually had caught on pretty early because there was one thing that happened, and I was like, "That's a weird way for him to move," and so I was like, "Huh, it doesn't seem that this is happening throughout the movie." So I kind of caught on a little bit, but I didn't quite get there until they got me there, which I was so glad I didn't get there until they got me there. Because when they get me there, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so deliciously bad."
It is wild. It's one of the wildest plot twists I've ever seen. And then when you just like think about it, you're like, wait. And I'm not gonna even say because it would spoil it, but
it's obvious.
It was
but
in front of
also,
our eyes the whole time based on the title of the movie. That's all I'll say. And we should have seen it coming.
So
That's what I was going to say. The title says it all.
The title says it all, and you don't even realize.
It's obvious, but your brain doesn't go there.
Right. Michelle Yeoh plays a woman named Santa who owns a Christmas store. I mean, like, it's so great. Really, like, I legitimately enjoy watching it. I don't think it's a great movie, but I enjoy watching it. Chad, as the Christmas fiend here, what are your thoughts on Last Christmas? Because I remember you liking this one, right?
I've never seen that movie, so I'm very excited to see what you guys are talking about.
Someone told me it was genuinely good, and I'm trying to remember who that was. Was it you, nerd?
No, I haven't actually seen this. I've just heard everything about it, and it baffles my brain.
JD, have you seen this? You've probably seen it.
I definitely, of course, I have.
Yeah, I almost don't want to ask for anything more because I don't want to spoil it for
way
Chad
possible.
Now. Yeah, Chad, watch it this Christmas because I really want to see what you think of it because I think you'll genuinely think some of it's charming because it is Christmas and it's got
there are Christmassy parts of it that I do enjoy.
Yeah,
the main story, the rom-com, it's pretty mediocre. It's nothing special.
The twist,
but the twist makes it so good and bad. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's just so wild. Well, we'll leave it at that because we got to wrap things up. But I am going to round it out. I'm actually very glad. I know earlier I said I hadn't seen any Peter Weir movies aside from the 3 that were mentioned, but I have seen another. It's been so long since I saw it that like I almost feel like I didn't want to draft it because I couldn't talk about it. But I've seen it, whereas I haven't seen Witness. I was worried I was going to get left with Witness, which would have been a great pick, it sounds like. But I'm happy that at least one I've seen has gotten back to me, and that's The Way Back. From 2010. I really couldn't tell you much of it. All I remember is that Saoirse Ronan was great in it, and I saw it in 2010 when and I was 12-year-old boy, and I was like, oh, Saoirse Ronan, she's beautiful, and I still think that. So yeah, I cannot elaborate on it because I just don't remember it like literally at all. But I have seen more than just the big three. But I was really hoping. In my brain, it was perfect that Chad would pick Little Mermaid at the 3 spot. I would get Master and Commander and Treasure Planet, and then we'd move on. But that was thrown for a loop. But I'm glad I got this because at least I've seen it, and it's Peter Weir, and I'm excited. I'm gonna rewatch it though, just so I can like feel good about the pick. But Matt, is this a good pick as a Peter Weir aficionado?
Yes, it's a good movie.
Awesome.
I haven't seen it since 2010.
Right. Gotcha.
And I've had 3 children since then.
Yeah,
so my brain is a little shot on it, but I do remember enjoying it.
And at first I thought I hadn't seen it because I was like, oh, I've seen The Way Back, but I've seen the Ben Affleck one. But there is an actual Way Back, and there's also The Way Back. And then The Way. Just so many ways. Very, very different. Anyone else seen The Way Back?
Yeah.
Fan of it, nerd? No.
I liked it. It's a pretty good like survival like test like I don't know, surviving the elements sort of thing. Where they're all on the journey together. And I think the cast works well together. Saoirse Ronan is probably the best part. I a lot of the details are fuzzy, like you were saying, because I hadn't seen it in a long time.
Right.
But I do
It's
remember
the last thing he did
core
too.
part.
So he's got to get back in the ring someday. JD?
Yeah, I actually saw this during the pandemic. I
okay.
watched it during the pandemic. So it's still a little foggy, but it's newer in my mind than a lot of maybe some of the others. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's a great prison break movie. I mean, you got a lot of great actors in it, like Colin Farrell and like Ed Harris too. Like, it's really, really, really like a nice, solid prison break / survivor thriller movie. It's really well done.
Cool. And Chad, have you seen this one?
Mm.
Cool. All right. So that is going to round us out. It was a long one, but I mean, it was a fun extra element adding that whole we get to choose the categories as it goes thing. And I think, Matt, I'll say it was a success and we will do it again because this was a big success. And I know there's a lot more directors we want to talk about. And we kind of got every element we wanted to at play here, where there was some where it was like a plethora to choose from, some where some of us were a little more limited on the filmographies, some where almost the entire filmographies got drafted. In the case of Musker Clemens, where only 2 were left off. I think overall we got a really cool draft board, and we got good variety in genre. So let me rattle it off. Honorable mentions are easy because it's just the rest of the films from all these directors. So if you all want to talk about that at any more length, the comments are open. But just for the sake of time, I'll just rattle these off, and then we'll do some plugs and get out of here. JD, repping Musker and Clemens in this draft, drafted Hercules, The Truman Show, Gerald's Game, The School for Good and Evil, and Big Fish. Andrew repping Tim Burton chose Edward Scissorhands, Bridesmaids, Aladdin, Witness, and Oculus. Chad repping Mike Flanagan, picked Dr. Sleep, Spy, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and The Princess and the Frog. Matt repping Peter Weir, picked Dead Poets Society, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Moana, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and Last Christmas. And Dyl repping Paul Feig, drafted A Simple Favor, Hush, Ed Wood, The Little Mermaid, and The Way Back. So there it goes. I don't think there's a clear winner here, also because I haven't seen at least one movie per each of your drafts. So maybe there is a perfect one here. But you all listening will get to decide based on the Facebook poll. The 5 of us cannot vote for our own, but we can vote for one another's. And I'm very interested to see who wins this one. I'm going to give a shout out to who won the last draft right now. As we're doing plugs, I'm going to pull that up. Everyone do your plugs. JD, you can start.
You can find me at JD Domash. I occasionally, lately my sponsor has been running rampant on MCU trivia, but I hear there's a tournament coming up, and my sponsor and I have been talking, and he's agreed to step aside for the tournament.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So Adam's staying home today, or this next month. Nerd, any plugs for you?
You can find me at Commentatoring in whatever you call Twitter now, Twitter, and Letterboxd, more importantly, and Discord. If I share a Discord with you, you might see Commentatoring Nerd floating around. I do a lot of Letterboxd reviews and lists, as these guys talked about. I had been doing videos at one point in time, but I've been on a long hiatus on that. I might get back to it at some point, but I do like writing reviews and talking about movies. So go check out my Letterboxd or find me on Twitter and see what I'm talking about.
Awesome.
I have a good time with it.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, especially for a draft as bonkers as this was. Chad, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm always around here, and I usually plug the same stuff, but I'll just shout it out real quick. Chadwick Webb, we rank stuff. Picture this, you probably know that one. Welcome to Prime Time over at the Nerd Entertainment Network. We talk horror, we talk Buffy, we do brackets. Check out my letterbox and Clear Eyes Full Heart Reviews.wordpress.com is my blog. I got to start posting more stuff.
Cool. And Matt?
I'm on here as often as Dylan will let me.
Okay.
So you can find me here. You can find me basically everywhere on the internet at Mattman, MATTMAN XIII. That is 13 in Roman numerals. On Letterboxd, on Twitter, on Blue Sky. If you're into that new social media stuff, you basically you can find me on TikTok somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember what that is.
It's a Dyl Pickle Movie Network TikTok, newly launched a few months ago. Matt is counting down his ranking of Big Brother seasons as he watches them.
I owe you a 5 through 10.
You owe me a 5 to 10. That was my way of reminding you. A 6 through 10.
6 through 10, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find me here, and if you can't find me here, you can find me elsewhere. You can find that other places, other videos, you'll find that. So thank you all so much. This was so much fun, such a blast, great strategy, great drafts, and we're excited to see who wins. And I'm gonna congratulate Chad for winning the Pet Peeves draft. Chad was our big victor there, won in a very narrow margin, I think a vote or two above Nina, who was second place in that draft. But those two ran away with it. Like those two, Kelsey, Carey, and I were just clapping the side, clapping. You and Nina really took it, and you especially just popped off that draft. But that was a fun one. Go check out that one. And we are going to have another draft this month, I promised you. And we will tell you what that is when it comes. You'll have to wait. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Good night, guys. Or good morning.
Dylan, can you throw in one of those like let's all go to the lobby? Can you do that like in the intermission?
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.